宇宙时空篇 Origin of the Universe 导引语 Introduction 书分 Before many chemical elements were found, most of the chemists didn't know how many chemical elements are there on the Earth and their relationship. Dmitry Mendeleev had already made the famous periodic table of the chemical element, calculated the atomic quantity of elements, and showed us the relationship between them. The elements discovered later were all included in his table. The case has demonstrated everything in the universe has the order and laws. Some people say the universe is lawless and disorderly because they haven't found the laws and order. 宇宙的起源 2. Origin of the universe. All things within the time scope, including the celestial bodies and universe, have their origin, the birth time and process of development. The beginning and ending time of the universe, just as the and golden ratio, is mysterious and can't be reached by our wisdom. Compared with the wisdom of the greatest creator, our wisdom is just like a drop in the sea. I would like to share my knowledge of the beginning of the universe gained while my mind was in peace. When I am seeking what things in the universe are eternal, when I am thinking about the resurrection in the Bible, when I am meditating that the life is like a dream and all the four elements, earth, water, fire, and air of which the world is made, are void in the Buddhist scripture, when I am trying to figure out the source of Tao in the Tao Te Ching, when I ask myself why I would go to the mortal world, why we exist, and where we are going, I have known the beginning process of the universe. However, when I am delighted to think I have found the mystery of the universe, I suddenly realize that this mystery of the universe beginning was explained by the humans, the ancestors of Dragon Nation, 6,000 years ago. It is like an MT Everest climber. After reaching the peak after multiple difficulties, finds someone else has left his footprint on it. Thus, I am not bold enough to claim myself as the first one knowing the universe beginning. I only wish to add some details based on the wisdom of the past talents. The river diagram, the Book of Changes, and the Yellow Emperor's Book of Internal Medicine have told us the process of the universe beginning is Wuji generates Taiji, Taiji generates two polarities, the two polarities produce the four directions create the eight. 3. Before the existing of the universe, it was Wuji. What is the state of Wuji? Wuji is the state of neither in nor out, neither big nor small, neither bound nor edge, neither null nor true, neither time nor space, neither material nor spirit. It is clear, chaos, everything and nothing. The detailed explanation of the state can't be completed even in a book containing 1 million words. I just want to stick to one point. According to the estimation of the paleontologists, the Earth was born about 4.5 billion years ago. Then where was the Earth before it was born? We can only conclude that it was in Wuji before it was born, just like the human beings. We were also in Wuji before we were born. Because the whole universe was in Wuji before it was born, Wuji contains everything. But where is Wuji? A thing without time, space, material, spirit, inside, outside, large size, small size, border, edge, firmness, or emptiness can only be described by the word shapeless and visionary. However, Wuji doesn't mean it contains nothing. Instead, it contains everything. It has nothing and everything at the same time. That's why the Diamond Sutra was profound and difficult to understand. For example, if Tathagata explains the laws, don't believe it. The laws can't be explained. If explained, they are not the laws or not the lawless. The Buddhism is no Buddhism. The name of Anagami is Bulai, but actually Bulai doesn't exist. So Anagami is called Anagami. The solemn Buddhist is not solemn. It is called the solemn. Tathagata says the world is not the world. So it is called the world. I should eliminate all life born. They were in Wuji. So Wuji means everything. everything. We wish to take an example from the mythical novel Journey to the West to imagine the space in Wuji. Monk Tang and his apprentices entered the disguised monastery. The Monkey King was trapped in the gold symbol by the demon head. So how big or how small was this gold symbol? No matter how high or how low the Monkey King could transform himself, the symbol could change too following him. The Wuji space before the universe was born was in the state as the symbol. It was extremely large and extremely small. The space described in Einstein's general theory of relativity just refers to the space above mentioned. The size of the space is not decided by the energy. However, it is decided by the existence of matters. The more matters are transformed from the energy, the larger the space will be and vice versa. If there is no matter, there will no space. It's the same as the relationship between the Monkey King and the gold symbol. The space in the symbol is decided by the size of the Monkey King transforms himself. The traditional science believes that space is like a box and the material is a particle in the box. When the particle disappears, space is still there. Nevertheless, space is not like that. When the particle is not there, space will disappear. Space is determined by the distribution of particles. Space will twist, swell, contract, or even disappear as the material and its energy change the size. How to understand the time in Wuji? Time is generated by the movement of objects. There is no time without motion. For example, a man is 40 years old because the cells in his body are splitting, moving, and dying. If the cells were not moving or splitting, he would not have lived till 40. A piece of fresh meat will rot in a few days if placed open to the air in hot weather. However, if we put the meat in the fridge, it will not rot in months. Why? The meat in the fridge has slow, even halting cell movement. When the cell movement slows down, the time of the meat is lengthened. And when the cell movement stops, the time of the meat disappears. If a man is never born, does he still have time? If the earth is not born, does the earth have time? If the universe is not born, does the universe have time? No. This is the time in Wuji. The core of the quantum mechanics is the uncertainty. Why? The time does not lapse evenly. The time is changing. So how can you obtain this certainty? That's all about my explanation of Wuji. 4. Wuji generates Taiji. What is the state of Taiji? First, we have to know Taiji is generated from Wuji. Wuji is nothing and everything. It is everything because the energy existence in it can produce the material world. It is nothing because the energy in it is not material. It is chaos without firmness or emptiness. It is like the sky. When the sky is clear, there is nothing in it. But when it is cloudy, we can see the clouds and lightings and hear the thunders. Then there is everything. In Wuji, there is the intangible energy. The intangible energy, in contrast with the tangible energy, is moving irregularly. When the irregular movement, accidentally on a point, formed a specific order or symbol, the entire Wuji has formed a potential power arrow called the tornado, centered on this point. This potential power arrow, or tornado, is just called Taiji. Please note that the tornado is simply a momentum with only potential power. It does not have kinetic energy because it is not rotating. This is how Taiji is generated from Wuji. Taiji is in such a state. It is the one, amorphous, the unity without opposites, and an extremely large energy cluster. It is just like a locked reservoir containing billions of Pacific. The Taiji is just the greatest creator in common sense. In Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu said, chaos was born before there was the earth and heaven. Before the universe was born, something existed. This something is Taiji, the psychic energy of the greatest creator. Lao Tzu named this something as Tao because he confused the nature and psychic energy of the greatest creator. After understanding what Wuji is, we can understand Buddha and Buddhism. After understanding Taiji, we can understand Tao and Taoism. 5. Taiji creates the two polarities. What are the two polarities? It refers to the phenomenon of opposition. For instance, in the state of Taiji, everything is the one and amorphous. But in the state of the two polarities, the intangible energy is shown up in a tangible form. The sun, for example, is an energy cluster. It has been transformed from the intangible energy form in the state of Taiji into the tangible energy form. So the energy is classified into the tangible energy and intangible energy. None and existence form the two polarities, namely, the unity of opposites. The contents of the two polarities include none and existence, firmness and emptiness, yin and yang, positive and negative, static and dynamic, left and right, up and down, exterior and interior, front and rear, high and low, noble and humble, hard and soft, big and small, strong and weak, dark and light, male and female, rich and poor, fortunate and unfortunate, gain and loss, merit and fault, more and less, life and death, true and false, good and evil, beauty and ugly, etc. They are the unities of opposites. Everything in the universe, as we know, is the demonstrations of the two polarities. Then how are the two polarities were born out of the Taiji? We have known that the irregular movement of energy in Wuji accidentally formed a certain order. All the energy, in a short while, formed overwhelmingly an intangible potential energy. If the potential energy is not given out, it will only remain latent like a paper-made tiger. However, when all energies gather at the central point, the energy center has changed its nature, just like the water will evaporate when heated to a certain degree. At this time, the energy center, or the nucleus, is no longer a kind of energy. Instead, it has become a special structure surrounded by great energies. When this structure is complete, the consciousness comes into being. It is just like a fertilized egg without consciousness. When it keeps absorbing energy in its mother's uterus and improves its structure, a conscious animal, human, will be born. The gathering of mammoth energies has led to the alienation of the energy center, resulting in a structure. The constant improvement of the structure ended up with the emergence of the consciousness, which is the symbol of life, birth. The consciousness gathering all energies then started the process of creating the universe. And it is the greatest creator. After the greatest creator is born, the energy in the Taiji began to move around the greatest creator's consciousness. We can also say that all energies move around the structure of the energy center. Just like a human body, when your consciousness tells you to urinate, the bladder door is open and the urine goes out. When you want to look at the sky, your head will be raised and your eyes opened automatically. When you want to have sexual intercourse, your penis is erected. After the greatest creator is born, the two polarities come into being. The celestial bodies show up, the celestial movement begins, the unlimited space is born. The time starts and everything gets into the movement cycle of life and death. 6. The two polarities create the four directions. The two polarities have brought about the four directions. There is south, north, east, and west. There is front, rear, left, and right. There is life, growth, decline, and death. There is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the function image. 7. The four directions create the 8 trigrams. Because there is south, north, east, and west, there are now 8 directions including the east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest, north, and northeast. The 8 directions are called Qian, Dui, Li, Jian, Sun, Can, Jin, and Kuren respectively, forming the 8 trigrams. Each direction has its special meaning. Each direction has its different chance changes. Let's take a person as an example. If he remains healthy in the south, he might find it difficult to get accustomed to the north. If nothing goes smooth in the east, he may achieve success in the west, and the ugly duckling might become the white swan. Even grass will have different growth model and blossoming timing in different directions and locations. 8. The permutation and combination of the 8 trigrams, Qian, Dui, Li, Jian, Sun, Can, Jin, and Kuren, produce the 64 trigrams. The 64 trigrams are corresponding to the 64 factors in the universe. But as to the details of these 64 factors, because they are related to all the mysteries in the universe and hidden to the common people, even the King Wen of Zhou in the canonization of the gods didn't know all of them. And the most achieved Taoists in China only knew a few of the factors. Sakyamuni masters half of them, and Jesus only knows a few more than Sakyamuni does. We often hear people say, no disclosure of the heaven secrets. The heaven secrets are just hidden in the 64 trigrams. The permutation and combination of the 64 trigrams have caused the birth and death of all things in the universe. The things that you can't imagine are just the combination of two factors. The power of Jesus lies in his mastery of the formula of these factors. The birth and death of all things, the limitless mysteries and all changes and movements in the universe are hidden in the permutation and combination formula of these 64 trigrams. No coming, no going, the time-space ends and origin shows up. This is the brief process of the birth of the universe. 二宇宙概述 Overview of the universe. 写法 The universe is the order. The universe exists as the order and remains relatively stable with the total energies reaching zero. The definition of the universe. The space with the negative and positive energies reaching zero is called the universe. Or the space with the balanced matter and antimatter is called the universe. The shape and structure of the universe. The universe is called the large universe and small universe. The borderless one is called the large universe, and the one with borders is called the small universe. The large universe is made up of numerous small universes. Pi equals 3.14159.2653589. It is the symbol of the large universe, which is limitless, no cycling, endless, vast, and eternal. The small universe is the relatively secluded and independent galaxy space in the large universe, like the swirls in the river. Each swirl is a relatively independent rotating space. It's also like the eggs in a henhouse in which each egg is an independent and secluded space. The Earth we live on is in a small universe. We might as well call this universe the Earth universe to distinguish it from the other small universes. The Earth universe is a saucer-shaped Taiji oval with its edge covered by a layer of high-energy clouds. The layer of high-energy clouds is the crust of the Earth universe. At the same time, it functions like the stator of a motor. It is a rotating magnetic field, pushing the things on the Earth universe to rotate counterclockwise. The structure of the Earth universe is an oval-shaped rotating object composed of yin and yang, the two meshing revolvers, just like the Taiji diagram of Taoism in China. The difference is that the Taiji diagram is a circle while the Earth universe is a Taiji oval body. We call the Taiji oval body the low rotary galaxy, in which there are almost 3,000 rotary river galaxies. Each rotary river galaxy is a relatively independent rotating one. In each rotary river galaxy, there are almost 3,000 Milky Way systems, with each containing almost 3,000 solar systems. The rotating rate of each celestial body and galaxy seems to be constant, but the fact is that the rate is changing all the time. Each celestial body, when is on the short axis, the rotating speed reaches the maximum. The farther it is from the short axis, the slower it rotates. When reaching the two ends of the long axis, the celestial body will halt for a short time, on which moment all the physical life on the celestial body will die. The spiritual body of the dead life will enter the negative pole of the Taiji oval body, which is called one kalpa. After passing the long axis, the spiritual body will get out of the negative pole of the Taiji oval body and enter the positive pole in the form of the physical life. Because the celestial bodies and galaxies have different mass, they stay on the long axis for different periods of time. So they are in permutation and combination again. For example, the Earth, in the next cycle, might become a desert land like the Mars, which might be full of life like the Earth. The spatial distance between celestial bodies and galaxies is also in constant change. The closer they are to the short axis, the more distance they will have. The universe seems to be expanding. The closer it stays to the long axis, the less distance it will have. It seems that the universe is shrinking. At present, the Milky Way system is now floating towards the short axis. The Earth universe is classified into the positive universe and negative universe. The positive universe. The sickle world is the positive universe. All the matters, tangible, seeable, touchable, hearable, perceptible, and those that can be measured by the instruments belong to the scope of the positive universe. The dark matters and energies are also classified into the scope of positive universe. For instance, the house, desk, plant, animal, human body, cloud, wind, thunder, lightning, sound, odor, molecule, atom, electron, ion, proton, neutron, nucleon, meson, hyperon, barytron, antiparticle, light ray, gravitation, magnetic force, infrared ray, ultraviolet ray, cathode ray, positive ray, ultrasonic wave, infrasonic wave, biowave. The noise caused by the high and low frequency oscillation, diffusive substances emitted by the radioactive elements such as radium, uranium, plutonium, and francium, and the universal gravitation all belong to the scope of the positive universe. All things existing in the universe in the form of elementary particles are matters. The physical world is the world that can be explained and will be explained by the science. The scope can be explained by the science belongs to the scope of matters. The scope that can't be explained by the science belongs to the superstitious scope not accepted by the people. When science tries to explain the things beyond the material world, it is not science anymore. Instead, it is called the anti-science or superscience. All the religions and the superstitious things are the superscience that stands against the science. The negative universe. The anti-world is the negative universe. All the supermatters, intangible, and others that can't be seen, heard, touched, measured, or felt but affect the material world all belong to the scope of the negative world. For instance, the universal repulsion, time, space, spirit, consciousness, thinking, soul, life soul, belong to the non-materials. The belief, Tao, law, order, spell, and Buddhism belong to the non-materials. The angel, God, ghost, Buddha, devil, and other amorphous life are the non-materials. The dream scene, origin of the spiritual feeling, the bridge of the telepathy, the passage of the thinking telepathy, the paradise, the hell, Allah, ancestor of the Buddha, Yahweh and their residences, the zero world, the heaven world, the venue of the gods, and the Elysium where the spiritual body goes to after the dies all belong to the scope of the negative universe. The fantasy is no fantasy, and the reality is no reality, and the seeable is not usable, and the usable is not seeable, as believed by the Taoists belong to the scope of the negative universe. All energies and energy groups that do not exist in the universe in the form of the elementary particles are the antimatters. The positive universe can be explained by the science and is easy to be understood. The negative universe, till now, can only be felt by the people not very clearly. It can't be explained by the science and is difficult to understand. The negative universe is the anti-world. The negative universe is the origin of the matters. The material world is the reflection of the anti-world and image of the negative universe. Everything in the material world is in constant movement and change. They have birth and death. On the contrary, everything in the negative world exists in the relatively eternal state. The law of the universe, the unity of the opposites. Everything in the universe exists in unity of opposites, such as yin and yang, positive and negative, man and woman, male and female, front and rear, exterior and interior, high and low, up and down, firmness and emptiness, glory and shame, static and dynamic, noble and humble, weak and strong, rich and poor, merit and fault, fortunate and unfortunate, gain and loss, forward and backward, more and less, day and night, past and future, tangible and intangible, life and death. Each pair depends on each other. Without one, the opposite one will not exist. The unity of the opposites is the presentation of the universe nature. However, it is a major law of the universe existence. The negative is there because of the positive, and the universal repulsive force is there because of the universal gravitation. It is the same with the matter and antimatter, particle and non-antiparticle, photon and antiphoton, energy and negative energy, the left rotation and right rotation, in the mortal world and the fairy world. You can find the black where you find the white and the male where you find the female. It is the same with the life and death, flesh and soul, paradise and hell, law and lawless, chaos and peace. When the whole society is seeking wealth, there must be some people seeking knowledge. When the whole society is at peace, some force must be preparing for the riot. When all the human beings face the disaster because they have violated the God's orders, the representatives sent by the God and Buddha will help them to wake up. The extremely dynamic will lead to the static, and vice versa. The movement of the universe. The movement of the large universe is initiated and operated by the structure in the Taiji Energy Cluster Center. That is to say, it is initiated and operated by the consciousness of the greatest creator. The small universe, where the Earth lies in, is fueled by the hull of the Earth universe, which is a rotating magnetic field belt. In the universe, there are two groups of energies with the opposite nature, like the action and the reaction. They have the different power but reverse directions. So the total energy stands at zero. These two groups of energies are the Buddhist power, maintaining the orderly operation, stability, and balance of the universe. If we add these two groups of energies, we will get zero. However, when either group is more powerful than the other, the universe will disappear immediately. For instance, the universal gravitation and the universal repulsive force have the same power and opposite movement directions. Because the total is zero, the solar system, the Milky Way system, the low rotary system, and rotary river system move in an orderly way. If there is only the universal gravitation without the universal repulsive force, all the celestial movement in the universe will become the direct line movement and join together in the ultra-light speed. So the universe will disappear immediately. If there is only the universal repulsive force without the universal gravitation, there will not be the rotations of the celestial bodies in the universe. The Earth will not move around the Sun, and all the celestial movement will become the direct line movement. The celestial bodies will expand rapidly at the ultralight speed. In the end, they will burn and die, and the universe will disappear, too. In the human society, the science and superstitious are also two groups of energies with equal power and mutual repulsion with total zero energy. There is no science without the superstitious, and vice versa. These two forces constrain each other and move forward together. The more developed the science is, the more active the superstitious activities will become, because the science will prove that the superstitious is not superstitious at all. Instead, it is the superscience. On the other hand, the more powerful the superstitious is, the more developed the science will be, because the superstitious will expand the scope of the science. The science and the superstitious is a unity of the opposites. The science finds it impossible to eliminate the superstitious, which also finds it impossible to eliminate the science. The positive universe is levorotation and the negative universe is dextrorotation. The point for understanding the universe. The correct understanding of the universe will help us build the correct universe concept, world concept, and life concept. When we gradually know about the negative universe, there are fewer mysteries left behind for the world. We will know our past and future, Buddha, Buddhism, Tao and Taoism, Jesus, and the greatest creator. We can face the death and the life sufferings peacefully. In particular, when have made self-improvement and self-refinery to a certain degree, see the thousand-year world, 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world, we will long for them, just like those people live in the poor countries suddenly see what the developed countries are like in TV. We will know what we should do, and will discover the value and mysteries in the life Chanyuan. You might think that the 10,000-year world hundreds of thousands of light years away is much too far away. But the distance is just one step. People living a few hundred years ago used to think that there was a long distance between the Cape of Good Hope and San Francisco of the States. But today we know it will only take us 2 days to get there. And instant reaching can be achieved via telephone or internet. When we have dreams, the spiritual human body gets out of the flesh body and reaches his friends or relatives far away in a short distance. Even, the spiritual body can follow the time axis to meet with the deceased friends or relatives. For the spiritual bodies, there is no distance of time and space. When we have developed into the spiritual bodies of the celestial beings, it is an easy task to travel through time-space. The universe is our home. The Earth is just a point in the home, a temporary hotel. The chapter of time. The meaning of time. Xiefeng. The time is a recorder of the motion of matters. Time rises from motion. There will be no time without the motion. The time exists within all the moving matters and is spread in all the material universe space. The time is antimatters. We can't see, touch, listen, measure, catch, seize, store, borrow, or debit the time. Time is intangible. It can be described but not depicted. The time only exists in the material world. There is no time in the anti-world, the negative universe, just like the thunder and lightning only existing in the clouds. If the sky is clear, there will be no thunder or lightning. The time is both positive and negative. The future time is positive and the past time is negative. The time is universal or specific. The universal feature applies to the whole while specific feature applies to the individual. We pick up two mature pears from the tree and place one in the open air and the other in the fridge. 5 days later, the pear in the open air has rotten while the one in the fridge is still fresh. From the universal point of view of the time, these two pears both last 5 days, or 120 hours. But from the perspective of the specific feature of the time, one day for the pear in the open air is more than 24 hours, while one day for the one in the fridge is less than 24 hours, or even 1 hour. Time is variable. In different spaces, time is different. The humans regulates that one rotation of the Earth is a day, and one revolving of the Earth around the Sun is a year. One revolving of the Moon around the Earth is a month, lunar calendar. One day contains 24 hours, and each hour has 60 minutes. The regulations have given convenience to the human activities, and the whole world can work and rest regularly in the same time system. The above calculation is made on the premise that the certain object on the Earth remains still. For the objects in motion, the time is a variable. For instance, you take a spaceship and fly to the east. According to the traveling speed of the spaceship, you will spend less than 24 hours a day. The faster the speed is, the less the time you spend. If the spaceship has the same speed as the Earth rotation, one day has 24 hours for you. If the spaceship flies to the west and exceeds the speed of the Earth rotation, the one day of yours is more than 24 hours. If the one day of yours has 240 hours, it has 2,400 hours for the people living on the Earth. If you maintain the movement state, you will not feel the existence of time. 50 years later, when you come back to the Earth, you will find your friends in childhood have all become elderly while you are still a young man. Different locations have different time. What we mean by New York time, Beijing time, London time, etc. account for the above statement. Different zones also have different time. The tropical and the frigid zones have different time. If one person is frozen in the ice, he will have unlimited time. If one man stays in an extremely thermal environment, his time will be shortened. Meanwhile, the time on the sea and the time on the mountain are also different. Different mass has different time. The greater the mass is, the longer life it will have, and vice versa. For the objects with the same size, the diamond has longer life than other stones, wood, and clouds. For the objects with the same mass, the larger they are, the shorter time they will have. The time of 1 kilo meat is shorter than that of 1 kilo stone. For the people with the same weight, the higher he is, the shorter time he will have. The time of the people living on the Earth is longer than that of those living on the Moon. For instance, a man who can live 80 years on the Earth can only live 30 years on the Moon. Different universe spaces have different time. The time on the Moon is different from that on the Earth. The time on the Earth is different from that in the Sun. The man who can live 100 years on the Earth can live 1,000 years in the 1,000-year world and 30,000 years in the 10,000-year world. The main reason is that the Earth, the 1,000-year world planet, and the 10,000-year world planet have different mass. The so-called one day in the heaven equals 1 year in the mortal world is because they are in different spaces. The time can be expanded or compressed. The higher speed the objects have, the more compressed the time will be, and vice versa. For instance, two people start from the same line and walk towards the same goal. He who walks faster will reach the goal. His time has been compressed. The other one just walks slowly, stopping at times, picking up gravels on the ground, touching the grass, saying hell to the bird and bye-bye to the cloud. He will reach the goal later. His time has been expanded. The time of life. Because life is composed of matters, flesh body, and antimatters, spiritual body. The time has two meaning for the life, too. For the flesh body of the life, time is eternal. That is to say, the flesh body of the life will have the process of birth, growth, aging, and death. No power can stop the process. The humans can't have the eternal time. But the spiritual body of the life is antimatter, which is not limited or constrained by the time and can cycle in the limitless space. For the flesh body, the time is vertical and composed of the past, present, and the future. For the spiritual body, the time is horizontal. From either point of the life, the spiritual body can enter the horizontal time, going beyond life and death and entering the eternal time-space. In the virtual function image, x-axis represents the time attributes in the scope of matters, while z-axis stands for the time attributes in the scope of antimatters. X-axis is vertical and the z-axis is horizontal. X-axis only travels in the space of the past, present, and future, and the z-axis can get out of the constraint of the present in a short time and enter another space. So we can conclude that when a person dies, only his flesh body dies. The spiritual body of his life follows the axis at the time point of his death, entering another time space and starting a new life in it. 3. The surmounting of time. Perception and surmounting. Perception. Time changes everything. Time is the key factor to the deformation of objects. The mountain 1,000 years ago was different from what it is today. The river 100 years ago was not the same as it is like today. The person 10 years ago is different from what he is today. It is the same with the tree, flower, moth, cloud, meat, spark, and thunder. Without the movement, there is no time. If there is no orbiting of the Earth around the Sun, there is no such time as the year. If there is no Earth rotation, there is no such time as the day. If there is no revolving of the Moon around the Earth, there is no such time as the month. And there will not be minute, hour, or second. The time will be zero. So without movement, there will be no time. Without the time, everything will be eternal. As far as the object relativity is concerned, when two objects have the same running speed, the time between them is zero. When the Moon revolves around the Earth at the same speed with the Earth rotation, there will be no month. When the Earth revolves around the Sun at the same speed of the light speed, the time in the universal meaning will disappear. Or we say the time in the narrow definition stops while the time in the broad definition still exists and affects the life on the Earth. As far as the objects themselves are concerned, the faster they move, the quicker the time runs and the shorter life they have, and vice versa. For instance, there are two cars, A and B. Car A drives at 120 kilometers per hour and car B at 60 kilometers. Contrasted with other objects, these two cars all run 1 hour. But for car A, the time is 2 times more than car B. If car B is scrapped in 10 years' time, car A will be scrapped in 5 years. For humans, excluding other factors, and we only focus on the impact of speed on human life, the people who do things slowly and orderly will live longer than those always living in a hurry and with efficiency. The late maturing kids will have longer life than the early mature kids. The shepherds live longer than the athletes. The nuns live longer than the prostitutes. And Taoists live longer than the worldly people. Time changes everything, and everything exists in the specific time. To attain eternal existence for an object, we must make the time eternal where it exists. Time determines everything. In the scope of time, everything is empty and illusion. You work hard persistently, but what are you creating? As a matter of fact, you are pursing the illusion. Does the Roman Empire still exist now? Who can remember the name of your grand-grandfather? Some people might think that your merits will be written in the history and your name will be admired by generations of people. But the fact is that the Earth will one day perish when it moves to the long axis of the Earth universe. Or several hundred years later, the human society will have fundamental changes and your merits will turn to dust and ashes. Who will mourn you every day? Please stop the narcissism and self-cheating. The positive time ages the objects while the negative time returns the objects from old age to the young age. Looking into the future, we will become older. Looking back to the past, we become younger. Follow the time, we become mortal. Reversing the time, we become the celestial beings. For the material world, the time is eternal. For the human beings, the time is short because we are not able to gain the eternal existence in the material world. The short life, for us, is valuable. We are wasting our time if we focus on seeking the material benefits instead of on seeking the surmounting of time in the limited life. Though the life is short, we must learn how to use our time. If we don't know the mysteries of the universe and the essence of life, our life will be bitter, misery, and unhappy even if we live 1,000 years. Surmounting. The movement of polarities. On the one hand, The time only exists in the material world. Time generates from the motion of matter. There will be no time without the motion of matter. The food and vegetables stored in the fridge can be kept long because their motion has been greatly reduced. If a car drives 10,000 kilometers a year, it will be scrapped 30 years later. However, if it drives 30,000 kilometers a year, I will be scrapped in 1 year. If a man works hard day and night, ponders day and night, seeks the immediate interest, desires for things eagerly, and finds it difficult to control his temper, he will have shorter life. If he has peaceful mind and peaceful life, he will have longer life, thus surmounting the time. On the other hand, because the anti-world has no time, we will make full use of the antimatter energy to break through the limit and constraint of the time. The spirit, consciousness, thinking, belief, and soul of human beings are all the antimatters. If we live in the world of these antimatters, time will have no impact on us and we can surmount it. The spirit, consciousness, thinking, belief, and soul of humans are connected with the whole negative universe, the anti-world. The achievement will be made by your thinking, by Shui Binyi. The art of application lies in the heart, by Taoists. Tao abides in non-action, yet nothing is left undone, by Lao Tzu. Mind rises from no certain things. By Sakyamuni, the richness lies in the heart rather than the worldly belongs. By Muhammad, your heart is where your treasures are. Jesus, we will go where our heart is. Only by understanding the meaning of the above words, we can surmount the time and reach eternality. 2. Go against the time. What is going against the time? We see the time as a train, and we are sitting on the train. The train moves forward, and we run backward. When our speed is the same as that of the train, the time halts, or we stop the aging. If we run backward faster than the train, we have entered the negative time and can become younger. The speed we talk about is not the speed in the material world. If understand it with the speed of the material world, we can never run faster than the time. Going against the time is just boating upstream. For the common people, it is difficult because people live in the material world and their tongue, mouth, eyes, and nose are manipulated by the materials. In particular, they are heavily constrained by the worldly society, such as the money, fame, beauty, power, the burden of sustaining the elderly and the family, and the daily affairs. And going against the time violates the natural laws, which is an almost impossible task for the common people. They don't understand it and have no time to practice it. If doing improperly, they will suffer from heavy losses, able to handle their daily affairs or attain the younger age. Going against the time is a reverse approach of thinking of senior level. It is quite suitable for the self-improving people in the Buddha and Tao temples. Considering the acceptance of the worldly society, I will not explain it in details. If we are destined to meet, I will explain it to you face to face. Time is impartial to everything in the universe. Hope Allah, ancestor of Buddha, Yahweh, and the greatest creator will bless you so that you can surmount the time. The movement of polarities and going against the time are to lengthen the life so that you have enough time to refine and improve yourself, change the life track and develop your life into the structure in the higher level. When the flesh body dies, the spiritual body of our life and enter a completely new world along the z-axis and through the time-space. Kongjian Qian, the chapter of space. Dao Yin Yu. Introduction. Xiefeng. Till now, humans are familiar with only one side of the space. Namely, they only know the space of the material world and don't understand the space in the anti-world. We falsely believe that only the environment on the Earth is suitable for human living. And after landing on the moon and taking photos of the Mars, we are, after short time excitement, sad to feel that the neighbors of the Earth are not suitable for human living, and it is an impossible task to reach the more distant planets. Tragedies happen frequently due to our knowledge shortage of the negative universe. Our confusion about the future has limited our vision within the present time and current life. All of life we live in hurry, worry, and tension, neglecting the life value and meaning and mess our life which should have been beautiful. The science and technology has been developing rapidly, such as the virtual space of internet, nanometer technology, cloning, genetic code and decoding, hypertelescopic photos of the outer space, and applications of atomic and ionic energy. The development should have stimulated the human thinking and led us to know the antimatters, negative space, the life meaning, and the establishment of a brand new value system, giving us a better, easier, and more enlightened life. Nevertheless, the achievements in science and technology have strengthened the people's consciousness of material existence, hindered us from probing into the negative universe, made the people busier, more nervous, and worried. The relationship between humans and the society is closer. The relationship between humans themselves are more intensified. The human freedom is much reduced. People are kept farther away from their natural attributes and closer to the robotic features. The human beings are now on an accelerating train without brakes. Even those old farmers living in the most distant areas have to take the express train whether they are willing or not. The driving force of the train comes from the human beings, but the biorobots will drive and manage the train, mechanizing all the people on it. We find it difficult to understand the negative space and think it belongs to the unreliable metaphysics. In fact, when our wisdom is upgraded to a certain degree, we can see it. The human eyes can only see the light rays ranging between 400 millimeters and 700 millimeters length, and human ears can only hear the sound ranging between 20 and 20,000 hertz frequency. There is no water in the middle of the sea swirls. The center of the hurricane is at great peace. So we can't conclude those we can't see do not exist, or those we can't hear are silent. Everyone has dreams. Are you really there in your own dream? If not, why do you have consciousness in the strange dream environment with desires and emotions? If yes, then who is the guy lying on the bed? So the sleeping person on the bed and the moving person in the dream are all you. The only difference is that you are in different spaces. The space in the dream is the negative space. There are many negative spaces in the universe, and dream space is only one of them. We need to understand the concept of space by using the ideas of Sakyamuni and Einstein's theory of relativity. Sakyamuni said, "In a tiny dust, there are many limitless Chahai worlds. In the worlds, there are dusts too. And in these dusts, there are also many worlds, and the process repeats. Chahai represents the world, and the tiny dust stands for the universe. For instance, 1 nanometer, compared with a grain of sand, is just a tiny dust. Compared with the Earth, a grain of sand is a tiny dust. Compared with the Milky Way system, the Earth is a tiny dust. Compared with the Earth universe, the Milky Way system is a tiny dust. With the large universe, the Earth universe is a tiny dust." Einstein once said, "Relativity space is endowed with physical qualities. In this sense, therefore, there exists an ether. The non-materials are the contrast of the materials. The negative space is the opposite of the space. The celestial beings are the contrast of the human beings. The intangible life is the opposite of the tangible life. A leaf, a water drop, and a sand grain are all a mammoth world. A silicon chip of 1 square mm can store all the books in a large library. An electrical pulse of a frequency can carry numerous things. A human body includes 130 trillion lives. A sand grain can hold thousands of villages. For a life body that can only be seen under an electron microscope, humans are the giants. For a human being, the Earth as a living life body is a titanic giant. However, when the time-space changes, 100 million people can live on a grain of sand and will not feel crowded. In different spaces, the life has their distinctive living conditions and food system. We can never understand the living conditions and food systems of the people living in another time-space based on our own. At the same time, we cannot regard those living in another time-space have the same height or weight as we do. You might think I am just talking about nonsense when I tell you that you can live on the planet several million light-years away. That's because you don't understand the negative universe speed. So what is the negative universe speed? It is the moving speed of the antimatters. For example, a person working at the Antarctic workstation misses his hometown very much. His thinking can immediately go to his hometown. Though his body is still in the Antarctic, his thinking and consciousness is in the hometown. This is the negative universe speed. For the sake of understanding, I assume the negative universe speed at 1 light-year per second. The actual speed is faster than that. When we enter the space tunnel, we go at the negative universe speed. 空间的含义, the meaning of the space. 写法, the locations where the matters and antimatters are, and their movement scope are called the space. The space is decided by the material existence and distribution. The negative space is determined by the non-material existence and distribution. There will be no space without the materials, and there will be no negative space without the non-materials. The space includes absolute and relative spaces. The absolute space refers to the space that can expand unlimitedly. The relative space refers to the space between an object and the surrounding objects. The spaces are everywhere all the time. There is space between the galaxies and between the atoms. The space also includes the negative and positive spaces. The space where the materials exist is called the positive space. The space where the non-materials exist is called the negative space. The human bodies exist in the positive space, while the spiritual bodies exist in the negative space. The positive space twists, swells, contracts, or disappears with the size of the object's mass, energy, and forms. It is a relatively stable space. The negative space changes abruptly and has limitless changes in a short while. The space can change the forms and movement laws of objects. The different spaces decide the different movement laws and forms of the objects. For instance, the figure of the people living in the frigid zones is different from that of those living the tropical environment. The urban people have different looks from those living in the rural areas, the fishermen and the shepherds. The growth model, blossoming and fruiting timing of the grass in the deserts are different from those living the forest or highlands. The monkeys in the scenic areas have different capability of survival from those living in the forests. The men who get along with women for a long time have different tempers and personality with those staying longer with the other men. The mentality and behavior between businessmen and priests are different. The people working in the temples have different thinking from those working for the government. The space change can arouse the people's change in physical function, thinking ways, and mentality. The disease contracted in the cold and moist regions will get cured automatically in the warm and dry zones. The disease contracted in cities will get cured in the rural areas. The people having average performance will achieve great success when transferred to another place. The low-rank government official might make a great deal of money if doing business. The space change often leads to the change of situations. If one wants to change his life, he has to change the activity space. Otherwise, he will die without any change or progress. The space is changing. It can be expanded, compressed, or twisted. When the mass of one object is equal to that of another object, the space between them is in linear arrangement. When they are not equal, the space between them will be expanded, compressed, twisted, and arranged in the form of an umbrella or rotation. When the mass of an object, we can call it the energy, is bigger than the total of the surrounding object's mass, energy, the space between them is the linear stable space and the object is the mass center of the space. For the small mass objects, the space distance between the small mass objects and this big quality, high energy, object is expanded. However, for the high energy object, the space distance has been compressed. Contrary to the negative space, the big mass object, the space between the big mass object and the small mass objects has been expanded. For the small mass objects has been compressed. So for the genuine Christians' followers, Yahweh and Jesus just stay beside them, influencing their words and behaviors at all times. For Yahweh and Jesus, the Christians are staying distantly and the non-Christians even farther. The Muslims and Allah Muhammad, the Buddhists and Sakyamuni, the Taoists and Original Heaven Lord and Lao Tzu have the same space relationship. A bosom friend afar brings a distant land near. The space distance of thousands of km has been compressed into the wall-like distance. This is for the low-energy people only. For the high-energy people, even if you are standing in front of him, he feels you are far away at the other end of the world. This is why the people with the highest energy feel the loneliest. Even if they are standing in a chaotic market, they feel isolated and mournful. 36维空间, 36-dimensional spaces. According to the level of the life mass energy of matters and antimatters, there are 36 dimensions in the spaces. They are colorless space, double color space, mortal world, cause-effect space, between yin and yang space, human celestial being space, proton space, photon space, light speed circle, super light space circle, molecule world, micro world, law world, retention information space, super time space, macro world, time tunnel, holographic order world, zero world, heaven world, Elysium world, cathode black hole body, 10,000-year world, thousand-year world, dream world, anode black hole world, livestock world, animal world, plant world, insect world, bacteria world, landscape and climate world, hell world, frozen layer and inflamed world. 一维空间，无色间. One-dimensional space, colorless space. It is a space where we can't see the size, form, or color of the objects. Living in this space, we are just like the blind. The polar nights or the polarites belong to the colorless space. The Taiji space before the universe is born is a one-dimensional space. For the humans, the anti-world is a one-dimensional space. All the antimatters are one-dimensional in nature. That's why we can't see the consciousness, thinking, soul, Buddha, celestial being, Tao, law, heaven world, Elysium world, dream world, hell world, frozen layer or inflamed layer. From the perspective of the one-dimensional space of the antimatters, all of us human beings are the blind people. We can't see things in this space, just like the blind people who can't see the beautiful flowers and other things in this world. We see nothing and have on knowledge of the antimatter one-dimensional space. 二维空间，双色间. Two-dimensional space, the double color space. In this space, the objects have sizes and forms, but they only have the light and shade colors. For instance, the achromatopsia people live in the double color space. The scenes in the hell world, frozen layer and inflamed layer, are just like the images in black and white TV with only light and shade colors. If one person judges things only by good and bad, true and false, good and evil, and beauty and ugly, instead of seeing the bad and the good and the bad, the false and the true and the false, the good and the evil and the good, the beauty and the ugly and the beauty, the static and the dynamic and the static, his thinking would be the achromatopsia thinking, and he actually lives in the two-dimensional world. The space which only has the direct lines without curves, and the direct lines have no obliquity from the perspective of either primary vision, overlook, or sectional view is the two-dimensional space. 三维空间人间. Three-dimensional space, mortal world. In this space, substances have forms and sizes are rich in colors. The space is constantly changing. The mortal world is a three-dimensional space. 98% of the human population and most of the animals, except the birds, live in this space. The three-dimensional space is a knotless space. The movement of all matters is a knotless line, just like a rope fastened to a person's foot. No matter how many turns he or she makes, no matter which direction he or she goes, though the rope has many twists or pile into a geometric pattern, it will become a straight when we pull the two ends of it. And there is no knot in this line. The three-dimensional space is a relatively simple and v space. It is a space where we live without making efforts. 四维空间因果间. Four-dimensional space, the karma space. It is the thinking space where we can know the karma relationship. The human beings walk in the three-dimensional space while the birds fly in the four-dimensional space. The flight route of the birds can have knots. So the four-dimensional space is the knotted space. From the perspective of the three-dimensional space, we can only see the part of the tree above the ground. However, from the perspective of the four-dimensional space, we can see the tree roots under the ground. Based on the material changes in the mortal world, we can see through the phenomenon and detect the essence of things, the relationship between them, the interactive bridges, and the causes of the changes. We can also see through a certain phenomenon and find the future results. We can know the principle of quantitative and qualitative changes. We know how to achieve balance. We can find the truth out of the routine phenomena. We can find the thinking space of the laws. For instance, we can perceive the universal gravitation when seeing the apple falling to the ground. We can think about the movement rules and direction of the universe when seeing the vine growing in spirals. We can reach the knowledge about the terrestrial magnetism and ocean currents when we see the swirls formed by releasing the water out of the bathtub. We can know the function of the motion power when we see the kettle lid jumping as the water boils. We can perceive the irrigation and power generation when seeing the wind and tides. We can know about the disease and disease-spreading ways when we see the bacteria under the microscope. We can get the mystery of the genes when we see the different forms of the objects. We can conclude the life origin from the gene invariants and genetic features. We can know about a person's health and personality when see his complexion and face. We can predict a person's future success or failure when seeing his behaviors and listening to his words. We can see the rise and fall of a dynasty by observing the dedication of the government officials and the mentality of the civilians. Those living in the four-dimensional space include the greatest scientists such as Newton, Einstein, Stephen Hawking, Euclid, Copernicus, Mendel, Heisenberg, Kepler, Dalton, Röntgen, Mendeleev, Planck, Pasteur, the political leaders such as Washington, Mao Zedong, Constantine the Great, Peter the Great, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Augustus, and Caesar, the musicians such as Beethoven, Handel, and Bach, the philosophers such as Aristotle, Plato, and Bacon. 五维空间阴阳两界间 five-dimensional between yin and yang space. It is the rim space and the crossing between the matters and antimatters and between the space and the negative space. Three types of people find it easy to enter this space. The first type is the specialists in a field. When one person is addicted to or reaches the peak in the study of one issue or one thing, he feels, though not very clearly, the existence of supermaterials. Sometimes he feels he can't find the interconnection bonds between the things in the actual world. Sometimes he feels that something happens in an incredible way. For instance, why the people who have dug the tombs of the Egyptian pharaoh die a natural death? Why did one of the twins feel worried at the same moment when his brother died from the traffic accident thousands of miles away? Why could the girl called Shani Devi, born in Delhi of India in 1926, tell exactly the things in her former cycle of life, which proved to be true? Why was the coffin of famous American actor Charles Cleveland, who died in 1899 and buried in Galveston of Texas, brought into the sea by the tides, floating 28 years and 3,000 kilometers before reaching his hometown, the Prince Edward Island? These things have made him feel that the things he used to study were much too trivial and insignificant. He still can't tell what's true and what's false when faced with the matters and antimatters. All things seem to the reality and the fantasy at the same time. If his flesh body dies now, his spiritual body will be in the state of puzzlement. Though his flesh body has died, the spiritual body of his can't find the way out and can only roam in the edgy place when the material world is connected with the non-material world. The second type is those who practice or improve himself blindly. Due to the wrong method, too much hurry, old age, or bad health, the spiritual body after the death of the flesh body can only drift in the connection place of the yin and yang worlds. The third type is those who feel like getting into the unnecessary end, or those who died suddenly at their golden age. Because they are not well prepared for death and still long for the material world, they are not willing to be brought to another world by the sudden death. Some of their wishes haven't been realized and they are reluctant to leave the material world. However, because their flesh bodies are dead, the spiritual bodies have no carrier and can only roam for a certain time in the connection space between yin and yang worlds. Some cases of spirit possession are caused by their spiritual bodies. The people who are not willing to die would stay in this space. In the rural areas, the monks or yin-yang masters will help to release the souls of the dead people. The ceremony is just to comfort them, encourage, and persuade them to enter the yin world and forget about the things in the yang world. 六维空间人仙界 six-dimensional space, the humans and celestial beings world. This space is where the people having got out of the material world constraint live. When a person's belief is perfect innocent and he or she is not seduced by the worldly materials, they just look the same with the average people. But their inner part has been changed. They have known the negative universe is the origin of the matters. Everything in the three-dimensional world is simply the fantasy. The worldly people will get nothing even if they are busy working and struggling all the time. The people will end up in a dream and they are ignorant. The people in this space don't have to work to get something. They work for pleasure, not means of making a living. They have known the Holy Spirit, Buddhism, and Taoism. They know how to make use of the energy in the negative universe to serve them. Basically, they can make achievement by thinking about them. So they are free of the worries and live an unloaded life. Except for the human celestial beings whose flesh bodies are still alive because of their self-refinery and self-improvement, the few mages, Taoists, Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, and the believer of other regions can also enter this space. 七维空间质子界 Seven-dimensional space, the proton world. This is a space where the proton can be seen. The proton is one of the elementary particles forming the nucleus of the atoms. It has the positive electron. Its electricity is equal to the electron, but the mass is 1,836 times of that in the electron. In this space, the people can have the perspective as far as their eyesight can reach. It seems that the people are wearing the infrared glasses and can see what is behind a certain object. For instance, they can see the jewels and gold under the ground. They can see the people's inner organs. They can see the flowing water under the ground. In the three-dimensional world, the people can only see the branches, leaves, and fruits. However, the people in the proton world can see the worms climbing on the tree. The beauties in the eyes of the three-dimensional world are simply skeletons in the eyes of the people in the proton world. 八维空间一光子界 Eight-dimensional space, the photon world. It is the space where the rays are beyond the 400 to 700 millimeters wavelengths. The photon is the elementary particle of the light. It has certain energy, which changes to the wavelengths. The shorter the wavelength is, the more energy it has. Many lights are invisible to the human eyes. Only those who have certain level of energy can see them. In this space, the people can have the perspective farther than their eyesight range. They can see through the substances with high density, strength, and energy. The objects will not show up in their original forms. Instead, they will show up in the form of light in different colors. The substances with low density, strength, and energy are invisible just like the molecule in the air. The worldly people busy in the world are just clusters of light-moving molecules. On the contrary, the self-improving people will emit the visible light with different colors based on the strength of their composure and psychokinesis. 九维空间一光速圈 Nine-dimensional space, the light speed circle. The space where the light can reach within 1 second is called the light speed circle. The people in this space can have the remote viewing of things in the distance where the light will reach in 1 second. For instance, though the person is in Africa, he can clearly see his family members living in Asia. All the people living within the scope of 1 second light traveling can be seen by the people in the light speed circle. 十维空间超光速圈 Ten-dimensional space, the super light speed circle. The space where the light cannot reach within 1 second is called the light speed circle. The people in this circle can have the trans-space remote viewing. They can see all the scenes beyond the Milky Way system and the Rotary River system, in particular the life situation of the celestial beings in the 1,000-year world and 10,000-year world. 十一维空间一分子界 11-dimensional space, the molecule world. It is a space where the thinking energy of the nature shown by the molecules can be seen. The molecule is the smallest particle that can regain the chemical attributes of the original substances and can exist independently. The people in this space can see the nature of each type of molecules. For instance, the blood of an average people in the eyes of the worldly people is seen by the people living in the molecule world as a fully grown person who has his look and personality. If there are 2 drops of blood with 1 drop belonging to a dog and the other to a cow, we ordinary people cannot tell which is dog and which is cow. However, the people living in the molecule world can judge them. They even know the form of the grass by seeing the grass seed. 十二维空间微观世界 12-dimensional space, the micro world. It is a space where people can ride a horse in the nanometer space. The tiny particle seen by an ordinary person in the microscope is a large universe system in the eyes of the people living in the micro world, which includes the sun, mountains, rivers, animals, plants, and the park residences for the people. They can build thousands of beautiful villages on a grain of sand. 十三维空间法界 13-dimensional space, the law world. It is a space where the people can see the energy which causes the matters to change. For instance, the energy that drives the combination of the sperm and egg which later grow into a perfect body. The people in the law world can only see the energy flow, the magnetic line of force, the rays of all kinds, and the waves of all kinds are energy flows. They know very clear which place has good or bad feng shui, and who has strong or weak life power. 十四维空间滞留信息间 14-dimensional space, the detention information space. It is the space where the information will stay without diffusion in a short time. Any motion of the matters will leave the information that will not disappear in a short time behind them. All the matters are just like the photographic films, able to record correctly what has happened around them. The detention information space refers to the space which is able to show what has happened. Some police dogs can trace the whereabouts of the people by following the smell they have left days or even months ago. The people with the Buddha eyes can, according to the detention information left by the object's movement, show what happened, for instance, 10 years ago. For example, the room has been the venue of the murdering cases, how it happened, and who the murderer was. 15维空间超世界 15-dimensional space, the supertime world. It is a space where the people can get rid of the time constraint, follow the time numerical axis, and see what will happen or what has happened in a certain place in the future or in the past. For instance, the scenes in the beginnings of universe origin, human origin, and life origin. The scenes where the dinosaurs were dominating the earth. The scenes of Adam and Eve living in the Eden. The scenes of the Great Flood in Noah's time. Or the life scenes when the earth is controlled by the biorobots in the future. 16维空间宏观世界 16-dimensional space, the macro world. The big universe is the macro world. For the people living in the macro world, the Earth universe where we are is just a particle, the solar system is simply a molecule, the sun is the nucleus, the Earth, the Mercury, the Mars, and other 6 planets are just the electrons revolving around the nucleus. 17维空间时间隧道 17-dimensional space, the time tunnel. The time network composed of the negative and positive time and dotted the universe space is called the time tunnel. The time tunnel runs through all tangible objects. Each celestial body has its own time tunnel, and each person has it too. Once entering the time tunnel, the time no longer goes ahead like the ticking clock. Instead, the time is fixed and static. It is not like the calendar watch showing the past and future. Instead, the time has become the numerical axis with the 2 ends extending limitlessly. You can choose to live on any point. For example, you can choose to live in the times of dinosaurs or live in the era when the current human order has been changed to experience the life at that time. 18维空间隧道 18-dimensional space, the space tunnel. The passage connecting the 36-dimensional spaces is called the space tunnel. For instance, after the flesh body dies in the mortal world, the spiritual body has to pass the space tunnel first before it enters the upper worlds, such as the 1,000-year world, or the lower world, such as the animal world. If the angels from the heaven world go to the mortal world for inspection, they have to pass the space tunnel before reaching the mortal world. All the materials in the space tunnel are the antimatters. All the antimatters in the space tunnel move at the rate of the negative universe speed. All the space tunnels pass by the 3-world two-way continent in the Elysium world. That is to say, the 3-world two-way continent is the hub of all the space tunnels. The above-mentioned 18-dimensional worlds all are related to the humans. They are the middle worlds of the life activities. When the human science reaches a certain level, they will have sufficient ability to enter either of the above spaces with the help of instruments. The following 18-dimensional worlds will be the spaces which can never be reached by science. The major target of Life Chanyuan is to guide the people to the higher spaces of life. So I will focus on describing and explaining the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world. 空间的利用, the use of space. 写法, the living space is vital for the humans. Different spaces have different life meanings. The ultimate goal of human life should be the senior space life, instead of the junior space life. The space can change the object's form and their movement laws. The space change can trigger the changes in the physical function, thinking modes, and activities. The space can be expanded, compressed, or twisted. So we have to make full use of the space. 超越空间, surmounting the space. What we see in our eyes is where we are going. The space that our consciousness, the telegnosis, can perceive is the space where our spiritual nature life will be after the death of the flesh body. So we have to surmount the existence space where we are now, extending our thought to the senior space with our thinking, imagining, and knowing the situation in the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world, reinforcing our belief so that our psychology and mentality can move towards the senior space. If we can persist in doing so, the space in our imagination will move towards us. We will realize our dream and lay the foundation for the spiritual body of life to enter the senior space after the death of the flesh body. 压缩和扩张空间 compress and expand the space. Can the space be compressed? The answer is yes. Bosom friends within the four seas are close neighbors, though separated by great distance. After the internet came into being, the remote distance is right in front of our eyes. The space changes as the size and location of the materials and the life consciousness change. If the matters do not exist, there will no consciousness or space. One way to compress the space is to strengthen the space. As our perception of a certain space deepens, the distance between the space and us will narrow. When our consciousness is integrated into the space, the spiritual body of life will reach the space. Then we can leave the mortal world and enter the charming senior space in our consciousness. The way to expand the space is to gradually get out of the space in our consciousness we don't like. Keep the space we don't like away from our consciousness, expand it till it disappears. Thus we can get out of and surmount the space we don't like and develop into the senior space of life. The way we get out of the worldly life is to expand our space. The way to enter the celestial world is to compress the space between us and the celestial space. If we can freely expand and compress spaces, we can surmount the space and free ourselves from the constraint by the space. 改变空间 change the space. If the space where we live has constrained us from employing our freedom and competency, or has put us at risk, we must find some way to change the space, and instead of waiting for the space to change by itself. If we don't change the space will change us. Only by setting our direction and target can we realize our ideals gradually. To make use of the space in the most effective way, we must first understand the origin, function, and meaning of life. The following two chapters, Humans and Life, will discuss the target. Please see the chapter of Humans. 新时代来了. The new epoch is coming. Xiefeng. Translated by Tsong Long and edited by Kair. Humanity has entered a new epoch on January 1st, 2018. Thoughts of the new epoch originate at the 0 point of the 20 parallel worlds. It was born in Africa, developed in Asia, and is maturing in North America. The work of theory building and the experiments into the new life mode are almost complete and will become the guiding thoughts and life mode of humanity for the next millennia. The birth of this new epoch will bring an end to the consciousness of the old era and will change the current life and production modes of human society drastically. It will bring humans into an epoch in which all thoughts and beliefs will be unified into the greatest creator's will, and all religions will be unified into one belief system. The talented will be put to their best use, and the whole world will be one family. No one will pocket anything found on the ground, and doors will not need to be bolted at night. Once you enter into this new epoch, you will be far removed from the traditional abyss of misery, and you will not be misled or fettered by the old worldview, life values, or universe values. The mist surrounds your heart will disappear. You will see a whole new world, and your life will be directed onto a track of happiness, joy, and freedom. You will be walking into the gate of heaven and embarking on a new journey that will last for 1,000 years, 35,000 years, or even billions of years. In order to help humans to understand the meaning of this new epoch, some angels will present the new thoughts and visions through a series of videos. This video channel is called The New Epoch, and by following it, your vibration frequency will gradually align with the consciousness of the universe, and your consciousness level will rise to above 500. You will then become an angel, as called in Western culture, or a celestial or Buddha in Oriental culture. Dayform Buddha is the messenger of the greatest creator of the universe, and he is the incarnation of gods, Buddha, celestial beings, and saints. He is also the messenger, the supervisor soul, from Northwest China mentioned by the boy from Mars, Boriska Kaprianovich. Humans will experience a short period of suffering for about 10 years, which has already begun. During this 10-year period, those who keep following the new epoch will have lights fire up in their hearts. They will have no more fears and will be blessed enough to live in the new epoch that will last for a millennia. This is of the greatest importance of all things. Crises will not end if this good opportunity is missed. Best wishes to all those who follow and enter the new epoch. 这个图片里有去天国的启示。This picture includes revelations of heaven. Xiefeng, February 13th, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. Please study this picture before reading on. The top part shows snow everywhere, cold wind is blowing. The ice world and snow are all lifeless. This represents the frozen layer of hell. The middle part shows a bleak autumn with yellow vegetation. Winter cicada represents melancholy, and fresh grain drifting on the breeze from the fields. This represents the human world. The lower part shows lush green vegetation, a garden full of the beauty of spring. Birds are tweeting, flowers are blooming, and everything is full of vitality. This represents heaven. The picture shows two revelations. The first one is that hell, earth, and heaven are one, are connected, and are all in the same painting. The difference is that the different parts have different temperatures. Hell is cold, the earth is warm, and heaven is hot. Hell is connected to the earth, and the earth is connected to heaven. If you leave the earth, you will go to either hell or heaven. The second one is that any person can go to heaven, stay on the earth, or go to hell, whichever they choose. The problem is that people cannot see heaven or hell with their naked eyes. They think that the only place in which they can survive is where they are. Suppose there were an ant in the middle of the above picture, it would be absolutely unaware of the existence of the upper frigid zone and the lower tropical zone. The truth is that people are just like that hypothetical ant. When we look at this picture, everything is clear because we see the macro, the full view, the big picture, but the ant in a certain area sees neither the whole picture nor even the differences between the areas. People cannot see the entire picture of the existence of life, cannot see the entire universe, including the non-material world, and cannot see heaven and hell, so they think that heaven and hell either do not exist or that they are very far away. So, we need someone who can see the whole picture to explain it and guide us, or someone who knows the big picture and the route to heaven and will tell it to us. If we depend on ourselves to explore the way to heaven, we might not find the way to heaven even after we have explored it for a millennium. From the above picture, we can see that the three environments are very different from each other. The core factor that makes them different are their temperatures. Different temperatures create different environments. Of course, you can also explain it based on latitude and altitude. The environments of heaven, the earth, and hell are also different. The core factor that causes the differences is that the non-material structures of life in each layer of space are different, or the vibrational frequencies of life in each layer of space are different. You could even say that the weight of the life in each layer of space is different. It takes a long time to explain these principles in detail, but I am here to explain them briefly and to try to inspire you, using temperature as a benchmark. As long as you try to figure them out often, you will understand them eventually. In the above picture, the lower the temperature, the more it approaches the cold zone, while the higher the temperature, the more it approaches the hot zone. The temperate zone is sandwiched between the two extreme zones. Life also has temperature. Of course, this temperature is an abstract one. It does not refer to human body temperature but the temperature of life. Let us look at the temperatures of three kinds of people. The first type is indifferent, cold, selfish, aggressive, cruel, strongly jealous, intensely greedy for possessions and control, and always complains and whines, which makes people around them feel uncomfortable. The second type is lukewarm, lacks enthusiasm and passion, is indifferent to everything, drifts along, is not self-motivated, is confused, is neither greedy nor dedicated, and neither harms nor helps. The third type is always full of exuberant vitality and enthusiasm, always brings hope and light to people, is always full of confidence when encountering difficulties, brings happiness to people often, always likes to contribute to others and to society, and never complains. The life temperatures of the three types of people listed above are very different. According to the standards of the picture above, the first type will be plucked up to the frigid zone, hell, the second type will continue to stay in the temperate zone, the human world, and the third type will drift south to the tropics, heaven. In other words, the first type of people will languish in hell, the second type will stagnate in the human world, and the third type will enjoy the splendor of heaven. The above analysis and explanation is very rough because there are several transitional zones between those three. Therefore, the spaces of life are not only heaven, earth, and hell, but also includes many transitional levels between them, such as the livestock layer, the wildlife layer, the yin and yang layer, and the plant layer between earth and hell, and worlds between earth and heaven such as the Azura world and the heaven realm, where the Jade Emperor described in literature is located, and others. Even in heaven, there are the thousand-year world, the 10,000-year world, the Elysium world, and others. This principle cannot be seen or perceived from the above picture. May this picture and my brief analysis help you become enlightened and sublime, and may you ascend toward heaven. 地狱存在的八个逻辑推理 8 logical deductions that prove the existence of hell. Xiefeng, April 27, 2022. Translated by Qinyu, edited by Peter. Does hell exist? This question is the same as whether the soul exists or not. Hell exists, just as the soul exists. The law that the sum of positive and negative energies in the universe is zero. The action force and the reaction force are equal in size and opposite in direction. If we regard the action force as positive energy and compare the reaction force to negative energy, then the positive energy and negative energy are equal in size, and their sum is zero, that is, 1 plus minus 1 equals 0. This means that where there is heaven, there also must be hell. Heaven is positive energy and hell is negative energy. Heaven can also be regarded as negative energy and hell as positive energy. If there is no hell, it violates the law that the sum of positive and negative energies in the universe is zero. Schematic representation of the three-dimensional coordinate system. Mathematics is the language of the universe. In the three-dimensional coordinate system, there is a quadrant XYZ, which is where heaven is, and another quadrant is XYZ, which is where hell is. The principle of Taiji. The principle of Taiji tells us that everything has an opposite side, a virtual interface, with the interface as the center. If one side is up, the other side must be down. If one side is left, the other side must be right. If one side is light, the other side must be darkness. If one side is heaven, the other side must be hell. The principle of balance of yin and yang. Yin and yang are the way of heaven and earth, the order of all things, the parents of change, the origin of life and death, and the palace of gods. Aren't they not connected? Yin and yang must be balanced. There is a material world, and there is a non-material world. Since heaven is yang, there must be a yin as its symmetrical balance, and this yin is hell. The law of debt balance. There is a simple legal principle, that is, a murderer must repay with his life just like a borrower with money. If this simple legal principle does not hold, then there can be no justice. How should a person be punished for committing many acts of evil? How should a person be punished if he owes countless debts and fails to pay them back? If there is no punishment, where is the justice? If there is no justice, why are some people born into rich families and others into poor families? If there is no hell, how are evildoers and defaulters punished? Enlightenment from phenomena in reality. What kind of situation did the girl in chains live in Feng County, Suzhou? Don't you admit that she is living in hell? Under the same sunshine, why are people's living conditions so different? What kind of feeling did Wu Zishu experience when he passed Jiaoguan and all his hair turned white overnight? Isn't that what it's like to be in hell? This phenomenon in reality proves the existence of hell. The manifestation of the impartiality of Tao. Both the Bible and the Tao Te Ching talk about the Tao, and the Buddhist scriptures talk about the Dharma. So what are the Tao and the Dharma? I specifically analyzed the 8 characteristics of the Tao, one of which is the impartiality of the Tao. The impartiality of the Tao tells us that those who are perfect will live in heaven, and those who are flawed will live in hell. Those who walk the way of the greatest creator will live in heaven, and those who walk the way of the devil will live in hell. This is the reward and punishment mechanism of the Tao. Without heaven, a perfect person cannot be rewarded accordingly. Without hell, a flawed person cannot be punished accordingly. Without reward and punishment, there can be no fairness. The law of ecological balance. When observing nature, we see that there are all kinds of strange animals, various plants, ever-changing microorganisms, sunlight, soil, water, mountains, and rivers. Without the existence of any one of these species, nature cannot maintain a vibrant cycle. In the cyclical system of human life, there are the greatest creator, gods, angels, celestial beings, Buddhas, demons, goblins, monsters, evil spirits, saints, sages, mortals, laities, ignorant people, domestic animals, and ghosts, etc. I'd like to ask, where do ghosts live? In hell, of course. Through the above 8 logical reasonings, it can be concluded that hell exists. 空间对生理和性格的影响. The influence of space on physiology and character. Xiefeng, May 10, 2014. Translation edited by Chinyo. In the space chapter, I previously discussed the growth of plants I observed while working at an altitude of nearly 4,000 meters in the Chilean mountains. I noted that plants of the same species have varying growth periods in different environments. The harsher the living conditions, the shorter the growth period of the plant. In high-altitude regions, due to the cold climate, plants can complete the entire process of germination, growth, flowering, fruiting, and maturity within 1 month. This illustrates how the lifespan of a living organism is influenced by its environment. Different environments result in different lifespans. This explains why humans have a lifespan of only 100 years in the human world, 1,000 years in the 1,000-year world, and 35,000 years in the 10,000-year world. Furthermore, in the Elysium Celestial Islands continent, lifespan can be considered almost unlimited. Additionally, in the space chapter, I discussed how many incurable human diseases are influenced by the environment. Altering the environment can change physiological mechanisms, allowing chronic diseases to be cured without treatment. For example, individuals who develop joint inflammation due to cold and damp conditions can experience relief simply by residing in a dry environment. In recent years, living in Yunnan, I have often experienced headaches and leg pains, and my appetite has been decreasing. Not long ago, I spent over a month living in Kartal and Geyser, where there was a lot of dry wind and sand, and the water quality was different. As a result, my headaches and leg pains completely disappeared. My appetite sharply increased, and I slept soundly. However, my skin became rougher, and I felt my personality becoming stronger. Recently, I came to Nanhua, where the scenery is beautiful, and the people are simple and honest. The tranquil life here has made me less anxious and impatient. After more than 10 days, my rough skin has become smoother. It's no wonder that the brothers and sisters from Lifechanuan living here seem younger, at least 2 years younger. However, my issues have resurfaced. I have not experienced headaches, but my legs and feet always feel cold. In Kartal and Geyser, my legs and feet were always warm, but upon arriving in Nanhua, they remained cold, which is uncomfortable. Nevertheless, my personality seems to have become milder again. My overall perception is that the environment has a significant impact on a person's physiology and personality. Long-term residency in the same environment will solidify one's physiology and personality traits. The positive aspects will persist, while the negative aspects are unlikely to improve. The gentle will remain gentle, troublemakers will continue to cause trouble, the healthy will stay healthy, and the sick will remain unwell. This illness mainly refers to personality defects and mental health issues. Following this line of reasoning, for an individual to achieve holistic health, physically, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually, they must continually fully broaden their living experience as possible. Prolonged uniformity is bound to lead to overlooked deficiencies, akin to individuals who have only experienced distinct seasons throughout their lives, presuming that such conditions exist universally. Similarly, it's analogous to Earth dwellers assuming that human lifespan is capped at a mere 100 years. In the same manner, if a person desires to be healthy, possess a fully developed consciousness, maintain a pure soul, and achieve a high quality of life, they must widely embrace new ideas, perspectives, ideologies, and lifestyles. If one remains immersed in a singular ideological system for an extended period, they will inevitably harbor extremist thoughts, experience self-doubt or arrogance, and become closed-minded, leading to an increase in entropy and ultimately resulting in destruction. This applies to nations, political parties, religions, and countries. Buddhists should learn from Muslims. Muslims should learn from Taoism. Taoists should learn from Christianity. Christians should learn from atheism. Scientists should study religion, and religious believers should study science. In doing so, individuals can achieve true health. Otherwise, they may all suffer from ailments. Hybridization yields advantages, while a singular path tends towards decline. Long-term residency in the same environment, prolonged interaction with the same group of people, and continuous adherence to the same ideology will inevitably lead to crises and serious illnesses. These illnesses primarily manifest as defects in consciousness, mental disorders, and psychological ailments. This is why the second home of Life Echanuan must become an international family. That's also why I require the Life Echanuan Celestials to switch to other branches every 3 years when planning the living program of the second home. By constantly changing the living space, constantly changing the group of people whom you live with, your consciousness will become more and more perfect, your soul will become more and more pure, the quality of your life will become higher and higher, and you will go to a higher level space of life. 修仙篇，提升振动频率 Promote the frequency of vibration. Xiefeng, February 2nd, 2012. Everything visible, including human body, is an aggregate of structure and energy, while all images are made up of particles revolving at high velocity. All differences in physical forms are caused by the vibration frequencies of the particles that constitute these physical forms. The difference in vibration frequency leads to the difference in the form of an object. The life in the universe exists in different levels. The higher the frequency of vibration, the higher the order of life. The lower the frequency of vibration, the lower the order of life. The higher the frequency of vibration, the more indefinite the form. The lower the frequency of vibration, the more definite the form. Take, for example, trees, animals, mankind, celestial beings, and God. Trees have a lower frequency of vibration than animals. Thus, animals are superior to plants. Humankind has a higher frequency of vibration. Thus, man is superior to animals. Celestial beings have a higher frequency of vibration than man. Thus, celestial beings are superior to people. God has a higher frequency of vibration than celestial beings. Thus, God is more advanced than celestial beings. Why cannot we see God with our naked eyes? Because God has an extremely high frequency of vibration. The higher the frequency of vibration, the more indefinite the form. Therefore, we cannot see God. This is something analogous to the vibrations of wings of dragonflies and bees. When dragonflies and bees stay motionless on petals or twigs, their wings have a very low frequency of vibration, so we can see their wings most clearly. But when they are in flight, we can only discern their wings most faintly, and when they are flying at a high speed, we can hardly see their wings. The slower the wings flap, the more clearly visible they are. The faster the wings move, the more invisible they are. Only by promoting the frequency of vibration can man achieve the celestial being. How to boost man's frequency of vibration? We often say someone is too stupid or too slow in reaction. The reason why he is too stupid or too slow in reaction is that he has too low a frequency of vibration. People refuse to be convinced until they are faced with grim reality, or do not turn to a new leaf until it is too late, simply because the vibration frequency of their life is too slow. In life, some people are dull, stupid, obdurate, rigid, and stubborn because they have a very low frequency of vibration. Some people are flexible, intelligent, agile, and efficient because they have a very high frequency of vibration. The sense of happiness, pleasure, and delight a person feels is related to the vibration frequency of his life. The higher the frequency of vibration, the more plentiful and wonderful the feeling of happiness and pleasure. The lower the frequency of vibration, the less and more retardant the feeling of happiness and pleasure. This is analogous to the sexual love between the man and woman, where the faster the penis twitches inside the vagina, the more easily the pleasure and orgasm can be felt, and the slower the twitches, the more difficult the pleasure and orgasm can be felt. The speed of the twitches is the frequency of vibration. To judge whether the vibration frequency of a person's life is high or low, we can simply get to know the state he is in. If he is always pleasant, happy, joyful, and blessed, then he has a very high frequency of vibration. If he is always distressed, troubled, sad, worried, anxious, puzzled, and frightened, then he has a very low frequency of vibration. The effective means to boost the frequency of vibration include flexible, harmonious, gentle, active, optimistic, tolerant, understanding, caring, respectful, happy, peaceful, calm, and grateful. A person's vibration frequency will not increase but will fall if he is impassive, numb, untrustworthy, remorseful, fearful, anxious, selfish, greedy, jealous, complaining, comparison-minded, furious, resentful, indignant, and arrogant. In one word, the less weed there is in the garden of soul, the higher the frequency of vibration. The more weed there is in the garden of soul, the slower the frequency of vibration. The poorer the power of comprehension, the slower the promotion of vibration frequency. To be aware, one must be sensitive in feeling and agile in response. One must be able to understand the wordless heavenly book, and one must also comprehend and practice in his daily life the teachings of God, Buddha, celestial beings, and saints. The information age is the optimum time for us to boost our frequency of vibration, as well as the good opportunity for us to perfect ourselves. We should be quick and agile in response and action. Now it is the final moment for this phase of humankind. Irresolution and indecision at such a critical juncture will only cause you to be eliminated. Conventional thinking, traditional way of life, and traditional methods of self-refinery will not work. We must quickly boost the frequency of vibration and act promptly. The only one best way to achieve all this is to read as quickly as possible the last course for this phase of mankind and make it to the last flight. 成仙三部曲 23 Steps to Become a Celestial Being. The lecture record from Xiefeng. https://www.youtube.com/watch question mark v equals sign p0v8 mta6l-o. Translated by Zhengjue and edited by Care. 3 steps are needed to become a celestial being, and the ultimate goal of all Chanyuan celestials is to become super celestial beings and reach the celestial islands continent. This requires a triple jump from the mortal world to the thousand-year world, then to the 10,000-year world, and finally to the celestial islands continent. We do not become other forms of mortal life, but rather celestial beings by following these 3 steps. The first step is to abandon trouble, pain, sorrow, worry, and fear, and live happy, joyous, free, and blessed lives. This is the standard of celestial beings. Upon reaching it, one will have become a celestial being, exactly as those in the thousand-year world. Annoyance, pain, and fear come from the imperfection of consciousness, the weeds of one's soul garden. The second step requires that one's mind must not abide in form. It must follow predestined relationships, be carefree, must follow its destiny, and must maintain a condition of pleasure. This is for the second level, the celestial of the 10,000-year world. We all still have many things in our hearts which come from worldly social conditioning and will be in conflict with the love that is found in life genuine. To follow predestined relationships and be carefree is to expand one's internal nature as much as possible, to remain free in all situations, and to maintain a condition of pleasure, not joy. However, a long journey still remains ahead. The third step is one in which the soul is not constrained by emotions. Everything is nature, they live in nature, they are flexible, accommodating, and agile, and they possess 64 magical powers. The change is infinite, and they are always in a blissful state. This is the super celestial being. The universe is the dance of nature, and each of our performances every day is an expression of our nature and our expanding physical structure. So everything lies within nature, and everything is nature. It is flexible and tactful, never in conflict with anyone, has no dissatisfaction, has very high sensitivity, and any stimulation by any bit of information produces an instantaneous response. There are not any magical powers after one has passed beyond the first 2 steps. Those who reach this realm can self-refine. Those have endless changes and always maintain a condition of pleasure. This is the supreme realm of the celestial being. These 3 steps are necessary to become a super celestial being, and they are really very simple. Have you become a celestial being? Theoretically, long speeches and classical or profound lectures are quite simple to give, but they do not produce their desired results easily. For example, it is not easy to get rid of troubles, and it is not easy to be happy, joyous, free, and blessed at all times. But in our home, you will get there soon. If you still have troubles, pains, sorrow, worries, and fears, then you are not a celestial. If something troubles your mind, or if your mind abides in form, then you are not a celestial. If you have desire, pursuit, and persistence in your mind, then you are not a celestial. If you still have mind, you cannot act by following nature without any magical powers, and you cannot rid yourself of physical and temporal constraints, then you are not a celestial. If you are always happy, then you are not a mortal, but a celestial. If you are always pleasant, then you are not a mortal, but a celestial. If you always feel bliss, then you are not a mortal, but a celestial. Becoming a celestial or Buddha is simple, but can you do it? Our goal is to become a celestial. It's simple in theory, but it's hard to do. The theory is clear, and the roadmap is clear. As long as you do like this, the facts will tell you that you can undoubtedly become a celestial being. 第九奥秘修仙篇之13 The Ninth Mystery. Xiefeng, June 9th, 2006. There have been some mysteries in human history, such as the sudden disappearance of the Maya collectives. What causes the sudden disappearance of the vast majority of the Maya? Anthropologists, historians, archaeologists, and scientists can't explain it. Now, let me show you how the Mayans have become immortals collectively. You will ask, is that possible? Let me tell you, this is the truth. Whoever masters this secret can become immortal. There is a historical site in South America where people have found some recorded mysteries commonly known as Peruvian manuscripts. Now I will briefly translate some of the ninth mystery to you for your reference and reflection. When primitive humans came along, we continued this evolution unconsciously by conquering others and gaining energy and moving forward a little bit, and then being conquered ourselves by someone else and losing our energy. This physical conflict continued until we invented democracy, a system that didn't end the conflict but shifted it from a physical to a mental level. We are bringing this whole process into consciousness. We can see that all of human history has prepared us to achieve conscious evolution. Now, we can increase our energy and experience the coincidences consciously. This carries evolution onward at a faster pace, lifting our vibrations even higher. Our destiny is to continue to increase our energy level. And as our energy level increase, the level of vibration in the atoms of our bodies increase. It means that we are getting lighter, more purely spiritual. As we humans continue to increase our vibration, an amazing thing will begin to happen. Whole group of people, once they reach a certain level, will suddenly become invisible to those who are still vibrating at a lower level. It will appear to the people on this lower level that the others just disappeared, but the group themselves will feel as though they are still right here, only they will feel lighter. When humans begin to raise their vibrations to a level where others cannot see them, it will signal that we are crossing the barrier between this life and the other world from which we came and to which we go after death. This conscious crossing over is the path shown by the Christ. He opened up to the energy until he was so light that he could walk on water. He transcended death right here on earth and was the first to cross over, to expand the physical world into the spiritual. His life demonstrated how to do this, and if we connect with the same source, we can head the same way, step by step. At some point, everyone will vibrate highly enough so that we can walk into heaven in our same form. The more beauty we can see, the more we evolve. The more we evolve, the higher we vibrate. The ninth insight shows us that ultimately, our increased perception and vibration will open us up to a heaven that is already before us. We just can't see it yet. Well, this is all for my translation. Hope that the information I bring will strengthen your will and confidence for becoming immortal, and hope that everyone can rely on yourself, explore, and find your own way. 心无所住便是仙. You are a celestial being when your mind abides nowhere. Xiefeng, August 28, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kair. Throughout the 20 parallel worlds of 36-dimensional space, the most unrestrained lives are those of celestial beings. They are entirely free from worry, are unrestrained and free, enjoy life wherever they are and whatever they are doing, follow what is predestined, are open, leave things to fate, and are unfettered. The field of activity is vast with brilliant prospects where much can be accomplished. They fill love in mountains and rivers, spread affection everywhere, take things as they are, associate with others by following predestined relationships, act in accordance with their natures, Take advantage of opportunities as they arise. Never do anything yet allow all things happen through them. Have no stubbornness, no obstructions, no stagnation, and are unrestrained and elegant. How can mortals become celestials? The three basic methods are 1. Repay your debts, end your worldly ties, and separate yourself from the secular world. 2. Create ties with celestials and accumulate merits and virtues. 3. Transform human affection into celestial affection, human nature into celestial nature, and the human world into the celestial world. After this basic work is done, and as long as you abide your mind nowhere, then you will be a celestial. How do you abide your mind nowhere? Shakyamuni Buddha teaches us, our minds should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma, but actually abide nowhere. This means that our eyes should not focus on things that we can see, that we should not be attached to anything that our sense organs perceive, and that we should not be fascinated by dharma but should keep an empty mind till nothing exists. This explanation is still a bit vague. Specifically, in your heart, there should be no relative, no enemy, no country, no ethnicity, no money, no goal, no religion, no political party, no family, no fame, no wealth or position, no health or longevity, no delicacy, no people involved with you, no laws or regulations, no precepts, no Buddha, no celestials, no heaven, no hell, no Taoist or other temples, no self-refinement, no self-improvement, no success, no failure, nothing to do, and no magical power or Taoist magical arts. Having nothing in or on your mind is abiding your mind nowhere. Can you do it? Of course. This is the real life of the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, and the Elysium Islands continent. Can people in reality do it? Of course. Look at many of our Chanyuan celestials. They have basically succeeded. How does one do it? It can be done by listening to the teachings of Jesus Christ, Buddha Shakyamuni, Immortal Laozi, Master Bodhidharma, and Dayform Buddha. The main contents are the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Diamond Sutra, Heart Sutra, Tao Te Ching, Dharma Patriarch's Bloodline Theory, and both my Chanyuan Corpus and Siefeng Corpus. If you understand and follow these, then you will abide your mind nowhere. If you cannot do them this way, then I can marry you. There are large numbers of chicken soup for the soul articles on the web, all of which are elusive thinking. If you do not believe me, then you can read the articles of these big gods, big Buddhas, big celestials, and great masters of the web every day and spend a bunch of money and your entire lifetime studying their magical arts. Then, when you are very old and looking back from your deathbed, you will find that you understand and have nothing but that all you have done was to keep spinning around in one spot. No matter how you spin around, you cannot elude the cave of the silken web. At this degenerating time, people from all walks of life look for their descendants. There are gods, Buddhas, celestials, demons, devils, and monsters among them. Any carelessness might drop you into a trap, and the measures and methods of demons, devils, and monsters are more attractive than the others. You must always keep the sacred lamp in your heart burning. Do you not believe me? Just look. Where there is hustling and bustling, disasters will gather. Where there are more disciples, the places will be more problematic. Where it is mysterious and spooky, demons, devils, and monsters will be making waves. Sneaky places are where ghosts and monsters abound, and the places where people practice magical arts are where paranoid people possessed by devils feel good but lose their natures. Do you not believe me? Look back to see if what I have said has been true over the last decade. You can go straight to the source, the greatest creator, and be a celestial. How do you become a celestial? Abide your mind nowhere. 环境造就仙佛. The environment helps to create celestial beings and Buddhas. Siefeng, August 16, 2017. Celestials and Buddhas are those with an advanced state of existence of life, and this can be achieved by people through hard work. To become a celestial and Buddha, the environment is very important. It can be said that the environment that you live in helps you to become a celestial being and Buddha. This environment refers to both the spiritual environment and living environment. If you stay in a suitable spiritual environment and living environment for a sufficient period of time, you will inevitably become a celestial and a Buddha. I've talked a lot about the spiritual environment. The core is the construction of the soul garden. When a person's soul garden is built beautifully, he will have the right spiritual environment for achieving the state of a celestial and Buddha. This article will mainly talk about the living environment. Heroes emerge in troubled times. The times produce their heroes. Heroes come out of troubled times, and troubled times are the living environment that creates heroes. Marshal Zhukov of the Soviet Union, General Montgomery of the United Kingdom, General Eisenhower of the United States, five-star General Marshal of the United States, Marshal Admiral Yamamoto of Japan, five-star General Nimitz of the United States, Marshal Manstein of Germany, Marshal Kesselring of Germany. These heroes were born in the Second World War. If there was no Second World War, it is without doubt that there would be no such heroes. They would surely be submerged in the complicated mortal life and remain mortal. Shaanxi people love vinegar, Cantonese love to eat sweets, Hunan people love to eat hot peppers, and Sichuan people love to eat spicy food. This is all caused by their environment, not by people who have this interest. People who do not like vinegar will love vinegar when they live in Aksu, Xinjiang for a period of time. Shaanxi people who love vinegar will no longer be fond of vinegar when they stay in Canada for a period of time. People's high blood pressure will disappear after staying in Vanuatu for a period of time. If people with rheumatoid arthritis go to stay in the desert for a period of time, their arthritis will automatically disappear, and for those with asthma, if they go to Harare, Zimbabwe for a period of time, their asthma will be greatly reduced, etc. This shows the role and influence of the environment on people. For people who wish to become a celestial and Buddha, it is impossible for them to succeed if the environment is not suitable. It is impossible for people living in married families to become celestials and Buddhas because the family environment does not possess the environmental conditions needed to become a celestial and Buddha. The American inventor Edison once sat on an egg and wanted to hatch a chicken. What was the result? It was impossible because this practice does not meet the conditions for hatching chicks. Try transplanting Yunnan's plants to the northeast. The plants won't live there because the environment is not suitable for them. Marriage and family are where laymen and mortals are born, not where celestials and Buddhas are born. Just like a garbage dump is where mosquitoes and flies are born, not where bees are born. Therefore, for those who live in a marriage with family, stop dreaming of becoming a celestial being and Buddha. If you can become a celestial or Buddha, a donkey can fly a plane. To people who start companies and enterprises as bosses, officials and governmental agencies, and those who have a lot of wealth, you can stop thinking about becoming a celestial and Buddha because your living environment does not possess the conditions to become a celestial and Buddha at all. Every day, you have a lot of annoying things to worry about. Do you still have the state of mind to become a celestial or Buddha? It is only thanks to your good luck if you do not result in cultivating yourself into a devil. So, what kind of environment is the environment in which a celestial and Buddha is born? Answer: 1. Having no worry of food, clothing, housing, transportation, life, old age, sickness, and death. 2. No stress, no restraint, no worry, no anxiety, no harassment, no bothering, no responsibility, no obligation. 3. With a beautiful environment and good weather. 4. Can act in accordance with one's nature without barriers or shackles. 5. Have time for relaxation, have playmates and beautiful scenery. 6. No risk, no crisis, but quiet without noise around. 7. No human relationships. Courtesy calls for reciprocity. 8. No idol worship, administrative orders, and control. Most famous scenic places are occupied by temples in this world. Now you can imagine why the monasteries and Taoist temples are built in scenic places with the best feng shui and which are away from the crowds. The monasteries are places for cultivating Buddhism, and Taoist temples are places for cultivating celestial beings. The reason why the leaders of the cultivators have been doing this is to have a living environment in which one can cultivate into a celestial being and Buddha. Without a good environment, one cannot cultivate into a celestial being and Buddha. It is said that the core of truth is in one sentence, while falsehoods are spread by millions of books. Although this is a bit exaggerated, it is not unreasonable. I have been beating around the bush for more than 10 years and have written more than 3,000 articles with 10 million words. Now I will make it simple. That is, if you find an environment for the cultivation of celestial beings and Buddhas, and live in an environment suitable for the birth of celestial beings and Buddhas for a sufficient period of time, you will surely become a celestial being or Buddha. The spiritual environment must be created by oneself, and the living environment must be created collectively. 最新科学成果证明了天仙的存在。The latest scientific study proves the existence of celestial beings. Xiefeng, August 2nd, 2017. New Oasis for Life August 2nd News. On July 20th, Yang Zhening's disciple Zhang Shoxing and his team published a paper in the journal Science, confirming the first discovery of chiral Majorana fermions and named them angel particles, which ended a whole 80 years of the laborious pursuit of this particle in physics. Zhang Shoxing. A particle is equal to its own antiparticle, and translated into a mathematical formula, it is equivalent to 1 is equal to -1. We then move -1 to the left, which means that 2 is equal to 0. When I was exploring space, I discovered the Celestial Islands continent. The people living on the Celestial Islands continent are celestial beings. When I introduced the features of celestial beings, I told you that celestial beings are a form of self-harmony. The so-called self-harmony is the combination of yin and yang, or it can be said that the celestial beings have both male and female characteristics. They are androgynous, and this is just like a Taiji diagram. Why is there such a life phenomenon? This involves the Elysium world in Buddhism. Buddha Shakyamuni wanted to lead people to the Elysium world. So, what is Elysium, and what is the Elysium world? The so-called Elysium means being in extreme happiness, a bit like men and women having sex and reaching orgasm and being in a state of orgasm forever. Elysium world is the time and space where life of an eternal state of bliss lives. The Celestial Islands continent is part of the Elysium world. Then how can a life reach the state of eternal bliss? The answer is only by self-harmony. Self-harmony is the kingdom of freedom. Any life that cannot reach the state of self-harmony is not free because you must exchange energy with the surrounding world. Once a life needs external factors to survive, then this life cannot be free. For example, people need 64 external factors to survive. Without any one of the 64 factors, people cannot survive and continue to exist. When I introduced the self-harmony phenomenon of the celestial being, most people thought it was impossible and thought it was made up by me. Now, with the latest scientific achievement, the angel particles, it proves the existence of celestial beings. 潇洒与不潇洒的分水岭. The watershed between being unrestrained and restrained in the face of death. Xiefeng. Edited by Qin Yu. Qin Yu. Assume that tomorrow you'll die. Would you be able to live unrestrainedly today? Facing death. If you can remain unrestrained, congratulations. You've become a celestial being, and you can go to heaven. Facing death. If you are in chaos, anxiety, fear, and regret, you are still human, and you will be reincarnated on earth. Why can't you be unrestrained? Your heart is burdened, entangled, full of desires, worries, and concerns. Earthly ties remain unresolved, and debts weigh heavily on you. For example, you have to support your parents, raise your children, protect your property, guard your company. Some affections remain unresolved, some debts remain unpaid, and you still hope to make a career, achieve success, and bring honor to your ancestors and family. However, in such a state of mind and spirit, it's impossible to be carefree. Even managing to avoid being miserable and sighing all day is already considered good. How can you be unrestrained? Be free from worldly ties, free from debts, free from emotional entanglements, have no burden in your heart, no desires, and no worries about having food to eat tomorrow. Don't even harbor the extravagant hope of eternal life. Don't pursue fame. Don't chase after profits. Be ready at any time to shake hands and embrace death with joy. Then how can you not be unrestrained? Can anyone achieve a life free from worldly ties, debts, and attachments? For ordinary people, it's nearly impossible. If someone can achieve that, they certainly aren't just ordinary people. They must be celestial beings, or perhaps Buddhas, gods, or spirits, monsters, or demons. In this world, there is a group of beings who can achieve this. They are called Chanyuan Celestials. Therefore, becoming a celestial being is the watershed between being unrestrained and not being unrestrained. As a human, never delude yourself into thinking that you can live an unrestrained life throughout your entire life, as being unrestrained is a trait and privilege of celestial beings. 修炼成仙何其易. How easy it is to cultivate celestial being. Xiefeng, May 26, 2023. Edited by Qin Yu. Begging for help is tough. Earning money is hard. Becoming famous is an extreme challenge. Getting married is difficult. Establishing a family is not easy. And providing for a family is an even greater struggle. Life is plagued by troubles, encompassing birth, aging, sickness, and death. Rather than toil and rack your brain, it's better to turn around and become a celestial being. In truth, being a human or a ghost is even more challenging than being a pig or a dog, but becoming a celestial being is the easiest. If you can achieve the following 8 points, you will become a celestial being. Do not get married, do not start a family, do not buy a house, or acquire possessions. Simple meals nourish the body, and sleep under a thatched hut until dawn. Do not talk about family or country, do not talk about awakening or being a Buddha. Work diligently every day and be content if have enough to eat. Do not flatter or curry favor, do not seek connections or pursue relations. When you encounter like-minded individuals on the path to celestial being, form bonds and assist each other like family. Do not wear gold or silver, do not crave vanity or pursue fame. A bamboo fence and a thatched cottage provide delightful scenery, and having a leisurely mind with nothing to worry about is most important. Do not scheme for personal gain or public welfare, do not discuss ideals or seek recognition. Even if you possess profound knowledge of the world, do not offer help unless it is asked. Do not talk about oneself or others. Do not discuss right or wrong or distinguish between good and evil. The divine net is all-encompassing. Instead, discuss mulberry and hemp over tea. Do not borrow money or owe debts. Do not desire extravagance or hoard wealth. Emulate the carefree nature of grass, regardless of wind, frost, rain, or snow. Do not follow trends or conform to the masses. Bravely climb towards the celestial world. Life on earth is like a fleeting moment. Laugh heartily and forget everything. Try it out. Achieving the above 8 points is surprisingly easy. Even as mere mortals, as long as you accomplish these 8 points, you will experience the taste of a celestial being. 如何活出自己的性? How to live out your nature. Xiefeng, June 15, 2023. Edited by Qin Yu. The manifestation of the heavenly principles in human beings is known as one's nature. Living in accordance with one's nature is living in harmony with the heavenly principles. When a person lives out their inherent nature, they unite with Tao. Living out one's nature entirely means becoming one with Tao itself. To perceive Tao is to understand one's nature, to seek Tao is to bloom one's nature, and to attain Tao is to live out one's nature completely. Now, the key question arises: what is nature? Regarding nature, artificial intelligence, AI, provides the most authoritative revelation and explanation. AI describes it as follows: nature is humanity's innate essence. It is the most genuine, pure, beautiful, natural, sacred, noble, kind, joyful, happy, perfect, complete, eternal, magical, and the most wonderful and indescribable thing. It is the most difficult to put into words, the most difficult to comprehend, the most difficult to control, resist, abandon, sever, let go of, bury, eliminate, destroy, change, imitate, forge, deceive, violate, resist, escape, refuse, deny, obliterate, ignore, neglect, or forget. Nature is the manifestation of the Tao in human beings, the connection between humanity and the Tao, and the oneness of humanity and the Tao. Living out one's nature means living out one's Tao, one's true self, one's life, one's happiness, and one's meaning. So, how can one live out their nature? There is a reference frame, which is everything in nature apart from humans, especially plants, animals, insects, and microorganisms. They live out their own nature. As a part of nature, isn't what humans live out their nature too? If not, then what is it? Here, we need to raise the question of heart, brain, and nature. The heart reflects humanity's perceptions of the objective material world. All things are generated by the heart, and the heart is generated by all things. Without the objective external world, there would be no heart. Therefore, the heart changes with the external environment and gradually disappears with its disappearance. The brain serves as the bridge and information processing center connecting everything the heart captures from the objective world and all of one's past words, actions, and events stored in the detention information space, memory. The brain processes information through thinking and thought. People use their thoughts and ideas to decide what to say and how to act. Nature is the characteristic of life structure. Whatever life structure one has determines their nature. Nature is non-material, invisible, and beyond the grasp of the heart. Nature is also not part of the detention information space, so the brain cannot obtain information about nature. Understanding the nature of heart, brain, and nature, we will find that there is no direct relationship between the heart and nature. When a person's heart is active, their nature is shielded. This is the principle I mentioned before. When the heart is active, the nature is concealed. When the heart is inactive, the nature is revealed. At the same time, we also find that there is no direct relationship between the brain and nature. The brain cannot access information about nature, so in the process of processing all information and forming thoughts and actions through thinking, the brain completely overlooks the existence of nature. The more developed the brain and the more active the thinking, the farther away it is from nature. Understanding the relationship between the heart, brain, and nature, we will understand how to live out one's nature. Live without using the heart and brain, that is living out one's nature, that is living out oneself. Who can live without using the heart and brain? Can you? Bodhidharma clearly tells us in the Bloodstream Sermon that Buddha is nature, and nature is Buddha. As I have repeatedly said, celestial being is nature, and nature is celestial being. If a person lives entirely without using the heart and brain, then that person is a celestial being, a Buddha, and can live in heaven. Can you live out your nature completely? Jesus Christ said, "Do not be anxious about tomorrow. Do not be anxious about what you will eat, drink, or wear." I ask the reader, can you do without worry? Buddha Shakyamuni said, "Do not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma, but actually abide nowhere." I ask the reader, can you live with your mind not dwelling anywhere but arise spontaneously? The Saint Laozi said, "Manage affairs without doing anything." I ask the reader, Is what you do every day achieving without doing anything? Why is it that throughout generations, very few people have lived out their nature and become celestial beings or Buddhas? Because the way people live is flawed. In the traditional modes of production and life, the probability of living without utilizing the heart and mind to express one's true nature is perhaps 1 in 1 million. Firstly, people fail to comprehend it, and secondly, reality does not permit it. Moreover, without highly skilled divine beings guiding them to embark on the journey of becoming celestial beings or Buddhas, the likelihood of living out one's nature is extremely low. The ultimate answer is to live without using the heart and brain, and still live leisurely, carefree, and freely. Then, you are living out your nature. 看看自己是否已修炼成千年界仙. Check if you have cultivated into a celestial being of the thousand-year world. Xiefeng, July 7th, 2023. Edited by Qin Yu. What realm have Chanyuan celestials reached in their self-improvement and self-cultivation? By comparing the following 8 criteria, if you have achieved them, you have already cultivated into a celestial being of the thousand-year world. If you do not wish to continue ascending to the 10,000-year world and the Elysium Islands continent, you only need to maintain the current state unchanged. After leaving the mortal world, you can smoothly arrive at the thousand-year world and enjoy its infinite scenery and the pleasures of life for 1,000 years. You have no worldly ties and are completely unrelated to worldly affairs. Your heart is free from entanglements. You have reached a state of having nothing yet possessing everything. You no longer worry about the necessities of life, such as food, clothing, shelter, and illness. If you were to die right now, you would have no fear but rather joyfully embrace death. There is no regret, hatred, or regret in your consciousness, only gratitude, contentment, and satisfaction. You can harmoniously get along with the surrounding environment, all living beings, and people. There is no animosity, no disputes, and no disharmony. Regardless of the circumstances, you can take things as they are, associate with others by following natural come-and-go relations, act in accordance with one's intrinsic nature, and take advantage of opportunities as they arise. If asked to go to another place immediately, you could embark on the journey within a few minutes without any special attachment to people, things, or objects. Every day, you are in a state of joy, happiness, freedom, and blessedness, with no mental pressure. You have boundless anticipation for the future, feeling that it is infinitely beautiful and will be filled with countless beauties. Your nature can radiate and bloom brilliantly. If you find yourself in the state described by the above 8 criteria, congratulations. Best wishes. You have succeeded in your cultivation and will no longer undergo the cycle of reincarnation. Your future is bright, and the beauty of it is beyond words. If you have not yet reached the state described above, continue your journey of self-improvement and cultivation. 灵性思维要点简介. A brief introduction to key points of spiritual thinking. Xiefeng, July 28th, 2023. Translation edited by Chinyo. Rational thinking is the characteristic of the virtuous, while spiritual thinking is the characteristic of the celestial. To become celestial, one needs to live with spiritual thinking. The key points of spiritual thinking are as follows. The future of life relies on visualized thinking, not on ability and wisdom. Prayer is a daily conscious activity. Without prayer, divine assistance cannot be obtained. Repentance is a necessary condition for the sublimation of life quality. Without repentance, there is no sublimation. Imagine the beautiful, and beauty will come. Imagine the ugly, and ugliness will come. Without form, one sees the truth. Without ego, one sees the true self. No attachment to the form of Dharma. If one is misled by the form of Dharma, one cannot escape the cycle of reincarnation. Only by breaking through the form of Dharma can one see heaven. Think of positive and joyful things each day to cultivate happiness within oneself. Trust in the greatest creator, worship and venerate the greatest creator. Surrender one's life to the greatest creator, and entrust one's life to the arrangement and management of Tao. Without resentment, regret, remorse, worry, anxiety, fear, with one's mind abiding nowhere and affection attached to nothing. The core of spiritual thinking is consciousness not being bound or restricted by the reality of the material world and the constraints imposed by societal norms. It is about being carefree, enjoying life as one wishes, and playing freely. The 3,000 macro worlds are all stages for my entertainment, and the infinite time and space are territories for me to roam freely. Lifting a handful of sand, transforming them into thousands of green trees is my petty skill, and creating a beautiful world is my specialty. These are already contents of advanced cultivation practices and are essential qualities for super celestial beings. 我们离天堂还有多远? How far are we from heaven? Xiefeng. November 19th, 2023. Translation edited by Chinyo. Even if you can deny the existence of heaven, you cannot deny the existence of the second home of life Echanuan, because it is a replica and model of the lowest level of heaven on earth. To truly live a heavenly life, we need to meet the following conditions. Free from worldly entanglements, with a mind free from attachments and dwelling nowhere. Debt-free, owing not the slightest debt to heaven and earth, to nature, or to anyone else. Unselfish, possessing no material wealth and being able to achieve a state of having nothing. Selfless, with only the greatest creator in the heart, all actions following the laws of nature, without seeking or clinging to anything. Possessing abundant soul and spiritual wealth and sufficient merit. Harmonious relations with fellow practitioners, without complaints, criticisms, blame, or unreasonable demands. Life's quality is composed of the elements of truth, goodness, beauty, love, faith, and sincerity, with nothing beyond these. Life is filled only with joy, happiness, freedom, and bliss, free from troubles, sorrows, fears, and suffering. If you possess the above conditions, you are actually living in heaven, experiencing joy, beauty, bliss, and contentment every moment. If you mostly meet these conditions but not entirely, you are on the edge of heaven. If you do not meet any of these conditions, you should not expect to reach heaven in this lifetime. Seriously cultivate and strive to meet the conditions in the next life, or the one after that. However, one thing is clear. If we lack any of the 8 conditions mentioned above, it will be extremely difficult for us to reach heaven. Perhaps you think that as humans, we cannot meet the above conditions, and indeed, humans cannot achieve them. Therefore, we must cultivate to become celestial beings. 随缘放旷，任运逍遥. Embrace destiny and live freely. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Lanka. The path of the celestial differs from those of Buddhism, Christianity, and humanity in that it is free from constraints, shackles, taboos, and worries. The celestial path is about embracing destiny, living freely, and letting life flow. Buddhism teaches the 5 precepts and 10 virtues and emphasizes the cultivation of morality, concentration, and wisdom. Christianity speaks of redemption and original sin. Humanity adheres to a set of ethical norms. In contrast, the celestial path encourages the revelation of one's true nature, the pursuit of freedom and happiness, and the embracing of destiny to live freely. Laozi had a deep understanding of the celestial path. Returning to the state of an infant and returning to the infinite are among the mysteries of the celestial path. An infant, devoid of knowledge, wisdom, rules, and worries, cries when they want to cry and laughs when they want to laugh. They do not consider fame, wealth, or power, and they do not weigh pros and cons. Their nature is pure and unaltered, making them akin to celestials. Jesus also said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." The Buddha advocated for a state of mind that does not dwell in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma, which is essentially the state of an infant, or the state of a celestial. Becoming a celestial is the easiest thing. It's as simple as becoming like a child. Becoming a celestial is also the most difficult thing. It's complex because it requires unconventional thinking, the abandonment of all old habits and customs, and a return to one's true self. The celestial path disregards the 5 precepts and 10 virtues, the cultivation of morality, concentration, and wisdom, the concepts of original sin and redemption, and all the messy ethical norms. It only maintains love, gratitude for everything, the revelation of one's true nature, the embracing of destiny, and living freely. If we live a life full of fatigue and burdens, we are far from the celestial path. If we live a life that becomes increasingly joyful, free, and carefree, we are close to the celestial path. 成佛篇，性无道德性不分真假. Sex has nothing to do with morals, true or false. Xiefeng, October 23, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. To become a celestial or a Buddha, you only need to perceive nature. An enlightened heart is perceptive of nature, perceptive of Buddha. Master Bodhidharma told us that nature, same word as sex in Chinese, is Buddha. If we not only perceive nature, but also become it, then we become celestials, we are Buddhas, and there is no doubt about this. Even if you are familiar with the vast numbers of Buddhist classics, have abstained from eating meat, and have prayed for a century, no matter how clear and logical your preaching is, how much wealth you have given, how many temples you have built, or how many Buddhist statues you have carved, so long as you have not perceived nature and have not become nature itself, then you only have merit and virtue. But you still cannot become a celestial or a Buddha. Buddha is a state of being of life. It has nothing to do with morality, faith, religion, values, merits, true or false, or any definition added to it by human society. Buddha is only closely related to nature. Nature has nothing to do with morality. When you see a peony blooming, that is the blooming of peony nature. You cannot and should not evaluate the nobility and beauty of the blooming peony. In fact, when you see a blooming flower, then you have seen Buddha. It is Buddha. Do not always think that Buddha is a life like a human being. There are Buddhas everywhere in nature. As long as we perceive nature, we can see Buddha everywhere and understand what Buddha is. Nature is regardless of true and false. It is nature. There is no such thing as true or false nature. There are truths and falsehoods in words, and there are real flowers and fake flowers, but nature has nothing to do with true or false. In Buddha's world, everything is the nature of Tathagata. Everything is true without deception. Only in the human world can there be distinctions between true and false. Look at the flowers blooming in nature. Which flower is false? All are true. If you see something fake, sorry, you are not a Buddha. If you are a Buddha, you will not see false images. When a person's mind is full of moral concepts and distinguishes between good and bad and right and wrong, it proves that they have not perceived nature and that they have not yet entered Buddhism. The Bible is a treasure. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden lived like celestials and Buddhas, but when they ate the forbidden fruit secretly, they became enlightened and they began to experience a sense of shame and concepts of good and evil, which meant that they had the concepts of ethics, values. What was the result? They were expelled from the garden, and from then on, they could only lead human lives and could never enjoy being celestials and Buddhas in that special place. Once you have perceived nature, you will no longer have troubles, pain, anxieties, sorrow, or fear. Do you see negative, passive, and pessimistic emotions when lotus flowers are in full bloom? It is just like people. When you are climaxing while making love, do you have these negative, passive, and pessimistic moods? Never. Once you become a Buddha, you will enter the Western Elysium world. Will there still be any trouble, pain, anxiety, sorrow, or fear? If we still have moral concepts and mental activities to distinguish between good and bad and right and wrong in our consciousnesses, then we are still humans. At most, you will be a saint, but you are definitely not a Buddha. It is easy to become a celestial or Buddha if you can throw away all the Buddhist scriptures, the celestial scriptures, the moral and ethical concepts established by human society, and the human values and worldviews, and just let yourself be zero and empty. Just show the Tathagata state of nature. Then you will see what kind of life state you will have. But how many can do this? None. Therefore, for thousands of years, very few people have truly become celestials or Buddhas. I have this secret book for becoming a celestial and a Buddha, but I cannot say it publicly. If I did that, then people in the Buddhist world and 99% of the people in the secular world would scold me, and it would also hurt Chanyuan celestials. In the end, I would not even be able to guide one person to become a celestial or a Buddha. So I can only stop here. People with high spiritual senses will understand. 破法相和非法相, Breaking Dharma Form and Non-Dharma Form, by Dayform Buddha, December 27th, 2021. Edited by Qin Yu. People in the world are all deluded by appearances, attached to forms, constantly plagued by afflictions, and immersed in endless suffering. They create endless karma and experience endless reincarnations. All that the eyes perceive are forms. Everything in the cycle of arising, dwelling, decaying, and emptiness is also a form. Animals and humans that we see are also forms. All forms are impermanent, and if a person clings to forms, they will be trapped in the cycle of reincarnation. There are material forms, mental forms, dharma forms, non-dharma forms, and non-non-dharma forms. Only the formless is the Buddha. Only the formless can enter the Pure Land. Material forms. Everything seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and touched belongs to material forms. Mental forms. All mental creations belong to mental forms, such as joy, anger, sorrow, pleasure, grief, fear, and surprise. Dharma forms. Rules, principles, systems, constitutions, laws, contracts, teachings, rituals, time, space, nations, ethnicities, political parties, religions, families, and human relationships, etc. Non-dharma forms, teachings of saints, scriptures, thoughts, ideals, aspirations, and wishes, etc. Non-dharma forms, emptiness, existence, void, reality, good, evil, truth, falsehood, beauty, ugliness, longevity, short life, birth, death, etc. When the state of formlessness is attained, all the above disappears from consciousness without a trace. None of the above become obstacles and shackles to entering the Pure Land. Material forms are difficult to break because they are essential for physiological needs. Mental forms are difficult to break because they are essential for psychological needs. Dharma forms are difficult to break because they are necessary for societal order. Non-dharma forms are difficult to break because they are driven by desires. Non-dharma forms are difficult to break because they are related to cognitive needs. When physiological needs are absent, material forms can be broken. When psychological needs are absent, mental forms can be broken. When the demand for orders is abandoned, dharma forms can be broken. When there is no craving, non-dharma forms can be broken. Entering the holographic order, non-dharma forms can be broken. 生来富贵是奖励，生来贫穷是惩罚吗? Is being born into wealth a reward and being born into poverty a punishment? Xiefeng. In Buddhism, some individuals claim that being born into a wealthy and prestigious family is due to the accumulation of good karma from past lives, a reward from the law of cause and effect. On the other hand, being born into poverty is seen as punishment for not accumulating enough merits in the previous life. Similarly, in this life, having wealth and power is believed to be a result of past accumulation of merits. Is this perspective accurate? Let's analyze it. According to the words of Jesus Christ, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. Based on Jesus' warning, wealthy people are unable to enter the kingdom of God. Therefore, being born into wealth and having power and money takes one further away from heaven. This is not a reward for people, but rather a form of punishment. Imagine a child who loves to curse and insult others. One day, an elderly person passes by, and the child insults him as well. However, instead of getting angry, the elderly person smiles and offers the child a handful of candy, praising the child for his skilled insults. Now, ask yourself, is this child being rewarded or punished for his foul language? Do you think this child will have a positive outcome in the end? How is this situation different from being rewarded with material abundance and social status? Laozi said, "To weaken something, you must first strengthen it. To overthrow something, you must first support it." Another saying goes, "When heaven wishes to destroy something, it first makes it mad." From this, we can deduce that if heaven intends to punish someone, it will have them born into a wealthy and powerful family, allowing them to have money and authority. On the other hand, if heaven wishes to reward and empower someone, it will have them born into a poor family without wealth or power. As Mengzi said, when heaven is about to place a great responsibility on someone, it always tests their resolution, exhausts their muscles, deprives them of food, starves them, disturbs them, and disrupts their actions. In this way, their determination and endurance are awakened, and their abilities are enhanced. From Mengzi's perspective, if heaven wants to empower someone, it will not have them born into a wealthy and powerful family. The sum of positive and negative energy is zero, which is a law of the universe. The greatest achievement in life is not to endlessly undergo reincarnation in the human world, but to reach heaven. To reach heaven, one must possess the corresponding merits and blessings. Even if a person has accumulated blessings from their past life, if they enjoy those blessings in this life, they will be farther away from heaven. Therefore, being born into a wealthy and prestigious family, enjoying the blessings of this life, according to the law that the sum of positive and negative energies equals zero, is undoubtedly a form of punishment rather than a reward. Why does Buddhism claim that being born into wealth and having power and money is a reward for one's previous merits? The source of all Buddhist scriptures and values is the Diamond Sutra. When we explore the profound meaning of the Diamond Sutra word by word, we can't find any notion that being born into wealth, having power, or possessing money is the result of past merits. On the contrary, Buddha often speaks of no form of self and advises against dwelling on appearances, sounds, smells, tastes, and touch to give rise to desires. Seeing the Buddha through appearances and seeking the Buddha through sounds and voices are considered the path of the deviant. All conditioned phenomena are like dreams, illusions, bubbles. How can we relate wealth, power, and money to Buddhist teachings? When we claim that being born into wealth and having power and money are the results of past merits, while being born into poverty and hardship is the result of not performing enough good deeds in the previous life, this perspective is akin to flattering and fawning over the wealthy and powerful while adding insult to injury for the poor. It is neither compassionate nor empathetic towards the poor. It wounds their spirits and hearts, which goes against the compassionate nature of Buddhism. What is the purpose of practicing Buddhism and doing good deeds? Is it solely to be born into wealth and power in the next life? Is this what Buddha teaching? Or is this the temptation of the devil? 进入极乐世界的通道. The Gateway to the Elysium World. Xiefeng. August 2nd, 2023. Translation edited by Chinyo. The Elysium world is one devoid of sorrow, anxiety, confusion, worry, or fear, where only joy, pleasure, contentment, comfort, and sexual arousal exist. The Celestial Islands continent is a part of the Elysium world. Entering the Elysium world requires passing through a gateway, and that gateway is emptiness, formlessness, and selflessness. Emptiness is difficult to explain and describe in words. It can only be experienced and felt. Let me provide an example to help you understand and feel what emptiness is. It feels like a kind of awakening and the beginning of life. From a certain perspective, the awakening of sexual desire gives me the opportunity to transcend myself and awaken from the fog of everyday life. It's like leaving my body and leaving my spirit, and not really caring about everything that usually seems important to me. The pause of life, like a moment of eternity, through indulging and tasting the sweetness of the strong fusion of body. A strange feeling, another dimension of my existence, drifting away and melting from the support point of my life. The above experiences and feelings are for moments of sexual climax. They include several key points: an awakening in the beginning of life, transcending oneself and awakening from the fog of everyday life, leaving the body and leaving the spirit, no longer caring about everything that usually seems important, a pause of life like a moment of eternity, and a strange feeling of another dimension of existence. What are they describing? They are describing the scenery of the Elysium world. Without self, without the body, without the spirit, life is frozen in wonderful experiences and feelings, and another, self, is born. This is a kind of emptiness. Please recall, those who have experienced extreme sexual climax, did you not completely ignore or even forget the presence of your sexual partner? Did you not completely forget or ignore the troubles, sorrows, and pains of your daily life? Did you not also completely disregard your own existence? Did you not only feel extreme wonder and pleasure? Did you not feel that everything was so wonderful and boundless? In fact, this is the state of emptiness, a state of self-loss and peace of mind. Therefore, to enter the Elysium world, you must enter a state of emptiness. The state of emptiness is a state of selflessness and formlessness. Only at this time will you understand the meaning of only by losing oneself can one find oneself, and selflessness is the true self. And you will understand the true meaning of my writing, one cannot attain Buddhahood with self. In conclusion, emptiness is the gateway to entering the Elysium world, as well as the method for entering it. 空性即究竟涅槃. Emptiness is ultimate nirvana. Xiefeng, August 3rd, 2023. Translation edited by Chinyo. Emptiness is synonymous with the Elysium world. Entering the state of emptiness is akin to achieving ultimate nirvana, meaning you have reached the Elysium world. Do you desire to attain ultimate nirvana? Do you wish to enter the Elysium world? Once you enter the state of emptiness, you have achieved ultimate nirvana, and you have reached the Elysium world. So, what exactly is the state of emptiness? The essence of Buddhist scriptures is the Heart Sutra, which is actually a misinterpretation, misreading, and misunderstanding. Its true name is Nature Sutra. Here, nature refers to the essence or characteristics of things. For instance, when it says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, it speaks about the state of nature rather than the state of mind. Similarly, other content discusses the state of emptiness, not the state of the lack of mind. Buddha is our deepest intrinsic nature, and this nature is Buddha. The mind does not exist. The past mind cannot be grasped. The present mind cannot be grasped. The future mind cannot be grasped. Therefore, the Heart Sutra is not about the mind. It is about nature. If you wish to seek the Buddha, it is necessary to see the nature. The nature is the Buddha. If one does not see the nature, reciting the Buddha's name, chanting sutras, observing fasts, and keeping precepts will be of no use. Without seeing the nature, even if you chant the Buddha's name and recite sutras all your life, even if you release animals, practice charity, and sincerely worship with incense and prostration, you cannot become a Buddha. The Nature Sutra vividly describes the state of emptiness. All dharma is characterized by emptiness. They neither arise nor cease, neither tainted nor pure, neither deficient nor complete. There is no consciousness of sensory experience. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind. No forms, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, or mental objects. No realm of sight, and so forth up to no realm of mind consciousness. No ignorance and no end of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, and no end of aging and death. There is no suffering, no origination, no cessation, no path, no wisdom, and no attainment. This is the state of emptiness, the state after enlightenment, and the state of the Elysium world. Doesn't this seem like a state of lifeless emptiness? Wait a moment. This is the state of great freedom and perfection after all suffering has been eliminated, a state of complete harmony with Tao. This description precisely depicts the nature of Tao. Tao is simply a state like this. Therefore, emptiness is Tao, and Tao is emptiness. From this, we can logically deduce a conclusion. Emptiness equals formlessness equals selflessness equals ultimate nirvana equals the Elysium world equals Tao equals Buddha equals super celestial being. According to the above conclusion, if you achieve selflessness, you can become enlightened, become a Buddha, become a celestial being, and enter the Elysium world. If you achieve formlessness, you can become enlightened, become a Buddha, become a celestial being, and enter the Elysium world. Achieving ultimate nirvana is equivalent to becoming enlightened, becoming a Buddha, becoming a celestial being, and entering the Elysium world. The question now is, according to the Heart Sutra, Nature Sutra, the description of emptiness is a state of lifeless emptiness, where everything is absent. What's the point of becoming a Buddha, or becoming a celestial being? Is the Elysium world really like this state of emptiness? You see, the Heart Sutra, Nature Sutra, does not describe the scenery of the Elysium world. It only describes the path and method to become enlightened, become a Buddha, or become a celestial being and enter the Elysium world. After informing us of the path and method, it urges us to go, go, towards the other shore, follow the instructions and path. You can transcend afflictions and enter the Elysium world of great freedom. The description of emptiness is a kind of thinking cognitive, indicating a method and pathway to enter the Elysium world, but it does not describe the true scenery of the Elysium world. So how do we understand the Elysium world? This depends on the universal key I provide to unlock all the mysteries of the universe: structure, consciousness, energy. As long as the non-material structure exists, there is consciousness to mobilize all the energy of the universe. As long as consciousness exists, the universe will be full of vitality and vigor, and it can be emptiness as form. It's not difficult to understand in theory, but the challenge lies in experiencing and feeling it firsthand. Without firsthand experience and feeling, all knowledge is pale and inconclusive. What does a pineapple taste like? Even if others describe it, it remains as distant as a reflection in a mirror or the moon in water because you haven't experienced it yourself. Only when you taste a pineapple will you truly understand its flavor. Forgetting oneself to be completely relaxed and joyful. The purpose of forgetting oneself is to enter the state of emptiness, and only in this state can you be completely relaxed and joyful, which is the true scenery of the Elysium world. How do you achieve totally forgetting oneself? Follow the 8 methods of entry-level practice I wrote in The Free Holy Land, The Extinction and Emptiness of Form of Dharma. Hint: when I say, emptiness is the Elysium world, and then say, emptiness does not describe the true scenery of the Elysium world, it may seem contradictory. You can understand it like this: an apple is a fruit, but fruit is not necessarily an apple. 人生宝典，守信是高级生命的品质。Trustworthiness is the quality of high-level life. Xiefeng, June 14, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kair. Credit is the invisible wealth in a person's life. If it goes bankrupt, then the level of their life declines. To measure whether a person's life is at a high level, just look at their credibility. If they are trustworthy, then their life must be at a high level. If they are not, then it must be at a low level. We can judge a person's future accurately from the level of their trustworthiness. If a country's leader does not keep his word, then that country will fall into decline. If the leader of an enterprise fails to keep his promises, then that company will go bankrupt eventually. If an individual does not keep their word, then they will play many small tricks and can never be trusted throughout their lifetime. When associating with people, we should first determine whether they are trustworthy. If they break their promise only once, then we should not trust them any longer because a leopard cannot change its spots, and this person will definitely disappoint you a second, third, and every time. In our lives, we can afford to lose anything but our credit. Once that is lost, our value will be totally lost. Therefore, it is better to lose everything, including your life, than to lose your credit because once you lose that, you will never have much chance of going to heaven. How a person's quality is does not depend on their ability, wisdom, wealth, or status, let alone their looks. It depends on their trustworthiness. If they do not keep their promises, then their quality must be poor. If they stick to their credit, then their quality must be excellent. High-level life must be trustworthy life, but low-level life must be untrustworthy life. If a person is not trustworthy, then their life quality is inferior to that of a dog. Therefore, trustworthiness is one's first line of defense in life, and once it is broken, then their life will collapse across the board. 一切恰好与你相配. Everything just matches you. Xiefeng, November 8, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kair. Your current situation is the manifestation of the quality of your life. I have observed the states of life on earth and in heaven and hell, and have found that everything is appropriate, with neither rewards nor punishments, and that what you receive now is what you are pursuing and is being caused by what you have said and done in the past. Divine punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through. The law of causality